Hey, Courtney. Cool. First to arrive. This will be a fun discussion tonight. Yeah, it should be a cool one. Right. Hopefully you can hear me.
Back in 2001, when we first began working with Gary Gygax, he pitched this wonderful series of books to us. He called them the Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds.
Waiting for Anna and the ever mysterious Tim.
Encyclopedic set of books for role players, writers, game designers, the whole lot of us that we could use in making our games, creating our adventures, writing stuff for publishable content, whatever it may be. And there was really no end to what he envisioned this series to be. We eventually published The Canting Crew, The World Builder, Living Fantasy, 7 volumes in total. We had another 3 that were ready to go to print, another 3 or 4 after that we were working on. So the series was really open-ended. We are bringing these back. That's what this
looking
Kickstarter
good.
is. We've got 7 books online.
Always feel like I forgot to do something, but it's too late now.
After that we want to get it minimally out as we were working on them.
We'll be live tomorrow night for probably an hour and a half,
depending on how well the Kickstarter does, and maybe even more than that. Once we kind of push
beyond
the necessary stretch goals and all that mess. But welcome to the what we're calling the Gary Gygax World Building Archives, and please give us your support. Share it around if you can. Pledge if you can. Whatever you need to do, whatever you can do for us and the memory of Gary Gygax, we very much appreciate it.
Oh no, I missed it. Cover your ears. Try turning it down.
Hi, welcome to Gamescape 3D. Today we're going to be going over our release of our gigantic cliffs. We have a lot to go over, so let's get
What's up, Lando? Sound check.
Before we jump in and see how this thing is standing up, let's look
check.
at some of our smaller features.
Thank you.
Get some of these figures out of the way.
31 months.
All right, you're going to have a folder in there called Magnet Face Cliffs. Those refer to a few specialty items that we have here. You can see this tree right here actually just pops right off. And after you pop it off, you can go ahead. I have a door.
What's up, Patrick?
Piece you can swap in there.
Total support yesterday. They really needed
just
it.
have a plain cliff face. You can swap.
I'm doing all right.
You can. Whoops.
Said busy week, busy stream week coming up.
Okay.
With an extra little one tomorrow night.
Let's say you're on an adventure and someone says a magic word.
Shout out
makes
into
a door appear in the side of a cliff for you to enter inside or whatever. So this one right next to it is another swappable one.
I always feel like
we
I'm
have
forgetting
a cave
something.
entrance.
I hate that feeling.
These things blend in real well.
I hate
on
that
the tabletop, as you can see. So there we go. No cave. Cave. Just that simple. Okay. And then our last one is down here. Shelves right here. This whole thing comes off. Okay, and there's your magnet faces on the back. You're also going to have open locks everywhere you have magnets. Most of the time you're going to want to use
we'll definitely
magnets.
do a short adventure
3
on
by 8mm
Thursday
magnets on this.
Courtney, we'll make sure we
I needed something with a little more punch than the 2x6s I usually use. So you can see the open locks being useful in some cases. Mostly I think you'll want to use them on side-to-side connections potentially.
Hello.
Because you will get into situations where the magnet polarity isn't set up correctly.
Is that like a
what is those open locks will override the magnets.
What are you, Tulsa Doom or something?
Yep, here's a cool one.
You can use any
that looks like almost like a caftan or something.
Yeah, it's like the
you could use
there's a tag on it somewhere.
Yeah, I saw the tag, man. What was that all about?
Well,
plexiglass,
it's pretty much the same inside out.
Oh,
like black, clean, and no lining. So, you know.
It's cool. Yep.
So there's the hardboard
Goes
I'm
with my
using.
Desert Nomad.
Okay.
I have
And these
drop
set
crotch
right
harem
on top.
pants and
I'll go ahead
kaffias and
move these
scarves
out
and all
so
that. I
you sort
can
of see the front mechanism.
be a Bedouin.
Okay, so we got magnets all along here.
Tuaregs.
And these are just the tops of the cliffs.
nice.
Your board sets right in here, and you do not need to cut precisely. We
I'll
got
take your word for it.
a lot of overlap coverage there.
I think we are.
We're always
Yeah.
on. We're always on talking.
most
So
cases,
I don't know. I
spots
just was
you're
checking to
looking
make
at
sure I
up to an
but-
inch
violate any
coverage.
policies.
So, you know,
but
if
you're
you're,
not violating any
if
policies.
you're within
that I'm
an
aware
inch,
of.
that's going to
So,
take care of it.
yeah.
not yet, but the
And
night
then
is
we have
young.
magnets.
Yes, it
These
is,
things
man.
just pop right in there.
And we're going to talk editions that can always get heated. Yeah.
This
We're gonna
one
talk
here
a
is an
lot of
earlier
things.
one.
We're
You
gonna
can see I
bounce
went
all
a
over
little
the place.
deeper. I decided
Yep.
We're gonna
change
bounce
that
around like.
for the one I'm
The
releasing.
key is identifying
So
which
you don't
editions
have-
are the best.
Yeah, see?
You know which
Exactly.
ones those are.
It doesn't really
That
interfere.
is exactly what
if
this
you're just
discussion
doing
is
a
going to
cliff
be about.
face.
And,
But if you form these
yeah.
things into an entire butte,
You never know,
that
man.
extra rock really ended up taking.
Well,
up
you
a
know,
lot
we
of
make it the
surface
I
argument.
think
Yeah.
So
Well,
I trim that.
I
I
was
think
gonna say-
that really
So
the
there you go.
essentials
That's how those
never change.
top plates hold into place.
In the
There are a few
game,
features
as
that
far
I'm
as
not
having
showing
fun
today.
and playing a game.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Kit.
absolutely.
The problem is that
Each one of
that
these
varies
cliffs
depending on who
will
you
have a
are. Yeah.
half version,
And it also varies
so that's gonna
on
come out
who
to
you're
about
playing with.
135 millimeters.
And how you want to
on
play.
this-
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a
on the
lot of
print
that, and
part,
that's the thing about
so you can
developing.
print
You know,
these
this is why we're going to talk about this
I do
in
not have
Yeah.
that
regards to
available
GREYHAWK,
for
and we
the
can.
swappable faces.
I will
but
allow
everything
it
else does
to
have
go
that
out to the
available.
city state
I
because
also
we do
have
that a lot
two
too, right?
turnout
So I have no
corners
problem with that.
instead of turning in, and
Hold on
I
one
also
second.
have a
What's up, Caesar? Getting onto that. Ugh! Sorry the game went a little long. We went late last night, later than normal, but it was
Yeah.
fun. That was a tough one. I made up one of the nastiest baddies in the 9th to 10th level range, Tim, I've ever made last night.
Oh yeah, what was it?
I've had her a while, actually. So I'll tell you in a second coming on here. I want the audience to hear it too. So we'll get through these. All right, tonight. This is one of those amorphous topics that can go anywhere, but DM evolving editions and playstyle in your GREYHAWK campaign development. So how do you develop yourself in your key GREYHAWK campaign as a DM? That's probably what I would say. Good to see you. Sucker train playtime. I think I said that right. I don't even know if I said that right. Yes. This will be fun. And she wasn't even dual class abused like Tim would do.
What? I bet you did your own sort of abuse.
I did. I took a very custom class, but I had a background story. I think it makes total sense.
You didn't bring your weird one back, the Dominatrix, did you?
No, I'm saving that for a night I'm really pissed off. You know, but Ed would get a kick out of it. Ed would laugh.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
Oh, you just gave me an idea.
Uh-oh.
An Ed game with Ed and Fritz, a night at the Tickling Feather. Oh my gosh, you just gave me an idea for something. It's almost like the one.
You can't stream that.
Well, wait a minute. What James Jacobs did that? What did he do? He did that book. What's book Carnal? What was the book he did? That
Book
really
of
got him in a
Carnal
lot of trouble.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
That's for a late night con game.
No, he did the Porphyry house horror adventure, right, out of dungeon, and that was really bad, right? You know, so yeah, but wow, yeah, you gave me an idea. Yes, where I can bring a dominatrix in, who's like infiltrated the place somehow. Why?
Have a little bit of self-respect.
A little bit of self-respect. Do I have any self-respect as it is? So
Yes.
yeah, I guess I do. Let me fix the pictures here since you both came on after. Yeah, but that's all right. So hopefully everyone's enjoying the weekend here. So we got a lot of stuff going on as usual. In fact, we're on tomorrow night too. Well, I'm on tomorrow night. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But so last night, if you watched the Ed Greenwood game, so Tim, this character was a youngster. Well, she's 85 now, but like unaged, probably like 40, right? But she was on the bad guy side at Emerald Meadows for the Temple of Elemental Evil and got away.
Oh,
So she
but
was like a
wait.
Sax in a foot night class.
Okay.
So I had her. She said to herself, "I want to bring the temple." You know, she was a water sect. I want to bring it back to its glory. Being a fighter is not enough. So she dual classed the mage because she had high enough intelligence. So she was a Saxon magic user. GreyHawk Live, what's up? That's pretty nasty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, he's not even arguing with me on that one. Normally he'd be like, "That's ridiculous."
Oh no, I mean, but she was high enough level where she could use both, right?
She was 9-10.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So GaryCon Live, good to see you, crew Garner. I'm going to give you a shout out for Garner's channel and GaryCon Live. Thank you so very much. We're going to talk about DMing style tonight and developing your own. It can apply to any game system. We're going to concentrate on, GreyHawk, but it'll apply to anywhere. And we'll talk a little bit about addition and play styles. And we're going to take a lot of open questions. So tonight's a very amorphous, our experience kind of discussion here. Nothing is etched in stone. I do have a help guide for GreyHawk but was from Samwise, but it's got his spin on it a little bit. Sorry, Sam, if you're on there. I read it and I was like, So yeah, but we'll talk about all that. So please sit around and hang out, and let's do this. Let's sit together. Classic D&D reprint giveaway tonight, as usual. Where's my? See, there you go. Something's not up. I don't have my Streamlabs up on this laptop. I knew I forgot something. It's already preset. All I got to do is hit a button here, and we'll get that going. And please, exclamation point drawing.
Button.
The correct buttons, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anna, did you enjoy yourself last night?
Yeah,
Good.
It was great. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
It was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very difficult event. Fighting giants and.
I had started watching it this afternoon a little bit.
Cool, man. I mean, it was a good game. It was a great game. So, So some options here. If you're GreyHawker and new to it, I still have this. The folio as a giveaway. I still have a bunch of treasures, and I got a lot of adventures. So we get to a certain level, hype train, I'll double it. But you get your choice of something at minimum that you do not have in your repertoire. I spin nothing. Sam. All right. Well, I'll talk about that, man. I appreciate you doing it, but yeah. So except the new canon, which is different. I know. But you did say some things about from the ashes beneath me here, right? So it's okay. It's all good. So what do we want to get out of this discussion tonight, Anna?
I think one of the key aspects of this, I think, is for a DM to start thinking what are the most important parts of the game for that DM and that gaming group, so they can start thinking of how they want to play, what rules they want to use, what props they want to use, and how to get the best out of their games, so to speak, because each game group and each DM have different needs. You emphasize on different parts of the game, etc. And simply to figure out how to get the best tools for the job they wanted to do, so to speak, the best tools to run the best games for that party.
True.
And that game table. Yeah.
Combine that with tools and how you're going to DM. Your
exactly.
Style.
Yeah, exactly. Because how you DM requires different tools, and there's so many different aspects to DMing. And I'm sure if you DM for 3 decades or even a decade, you probably figure out what you like and how to do it. But it took me over 20 years to mature enough that I started to understand what I actually wanted from this game, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to feel confident. Okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what I think I can bring some cool stuff for the players and make them have fun as well as having fun myself. But that taken me decades, and if I can somehow speed that process up, that kind of self-reflection as a gamer to others, so they can find their sweet spot faster than I did, that will be a benefit for them, I think.
Or I did, because mine
Yeah.
took a long time too. You know, it
Yep.
did. I was meandering a lot. So, what
Yep.
about you, Tim, on this topic? Because we know your play style.
Yeah, I think the evolving to a new rule set is as significant or insignificant as you want it to be, depending on whether you're role play based, heavy role play. It's going to be, it doesn't really matter what style, what rule set you in. If you're more prone to heavy combat, then the rule set's more important, because everyone needs to operate with the same understanding for combat and such. But I think you can play. I think the essentials are the same in every edition.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of mechanics.
Oh yeah, but sometimes you can end up spending a lot of effort on mechanics that doesn't enhance the parts of the game that you're interested in.
Right. You mean third edition?
Well, yeah, that's a good example. Depending on what parts, meaning if you have a lot of interest in role play, you want to have social interactions, you want to have banter and cool stuff, then pick a role-playing game, a rule system that has less emphasis on combat. So you don't have to sit and roll dice and do calculations up the wazoo. So you can spend more time on so you can get combat to just disappear quickly and be done with. But on the other hand, if you love the combat aspect of it, a tactical thing, you want to do miniatures and you want to do roll dice and you want to calculate and make sure you got the right moves and so on and so forth, then you choose a rule system that emphasizes more on that, so to speak.
So I think there's a balance between both, because
Yeah.
I love the playful banter, like last night with Ed, right?
All
the fun going on there. And also, so there's been posts going around on Twitter. I know a lot of you have seen them, and it's driving me crazy. And I've stopped myself from commenting on any of them. And that is, they're all arguing about, well, D&D was originally a war game, and I'm like, my God, can we get over this, please?
It evolved from.
From war gaming.
Right.
Yeah.
From war gaming, and basically it took heroes in the war game part and brought them into a very microcosm area of the big picture.
It was people that wanted more details and more personality in their war game. So it kind of went more towards the role play.
Yeah, and so, but I'm like, I don't need to, I try and stay out of the Twitter fights, because they get really ugly sometimes. And I don't care, but the posts are all over the place. It's going on like crazy. I know some of you have seen them, but for me, it was like, my play style was different in 1980 when I first met Tim than it is now. Way different, right? I mean, we had a box of slagged minis that we called the fishy box, where we used that was an orc and that was a dragon, right? Where we were lucky if we had painted miniatures for our player characters. We had some, right? And then we usually had the big mats, and we would use markers on them. How many times did I mess up doing a graph sheet? And I go, oh my God, I messed up. I have to take it back, Tim. What, 100 times at night?
Yeah.
All the time. So it was more about the mapping. There's a lot of different changes.
Well, we had in college, we had a system where I would say, all right, this wall goes north so many feet. Then there's skip 10 feet. I mean, we had it down with science, where they could copy with my verbal description very quickly. But it depends on the people at the table. They have to remember what they had for lunch. If they can't remember what they had for lunch, then they may not be able to do that.
That's why we have the tuna fish emote, because we don't have that for lunch here. I haven't used a tuna fish emote in a while. There you go. So, Parcheesi pieces, that works. Army men. We used HO train stuff for a long time.
I would say, Jay, though.
Yep.
Having the fancy stuff, it makes it more of a spectacle, more spectacular, but it really doesn't change. It doesn't really change the game so much.
It doesn't change the game so much, but it
makes it look really awesome.
Right. The visuals are an advantage, but there are things that it does change, and I'll tell you that. I'll give you an example from last night. If you saw the pictures, let me just bring one up real quick. And explain what I'm talking about. And Anna will know this in a second, because it happened to her last night. That's 1073. Let me go to 1072.
Anna, did you survive?
Darling.
Oh yeah, survive barely. I had like 5 hit points left.
Yeah, but you, I took, for the first time ever, I took down Ed. I took down Ed Greenwood for the first time ever. Lavalantar. So, oh my God, am I gonna hit the wrong button?
Well,
Had to
Atlanta
happen
was
sooner or later.
I
down in the
did. I
weeds.
did.
Yeah.
Jeez, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that time. So sorry about that. Thank you, darling. All right, you see this here, this ledge here, and right here. Anna's character Nira is here, and while all the rest are going through this hole and up the slope here. You can't see it, but way back on at the top of this hill, there are two
Did you
frost
push your
giants.
character off a ledge?
What?
You didn't push your character off a ledge, did you?
No, that's yours.
She's had enough of that.
That's yours. But Nira's back here, firing about 300 to 400 feet on these two frost giants back there, because she's in range for the archer class. Now, in the old days, we don't have anything that long, and we're just guessing, right? Oh, I'm back this far, right? I mean, that's the difference. The visual effect is a little different, but that's not really what we're even talking about. That's a semantic thing, right? But that was the different thing for this. By the way, these are all the deads from Thursday night that they just walked over and they ignored. So, yeah, but yeah. So that's a little different for us. But what's up, man? Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it, Tim.
You mean having a definitive range from where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. So that it's much more accurate. And spells. I mean, they were out of spell range like that entire fight until they moved up.
No real notional distances. All distances are to scale. Generally on the table. Distances are to scale. There's no notional
exactly
distortion involved. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a huge difference that we've had. But that's a semantic thing, more not a style thing. Right. Oh wow, dude. Thanks,
Tim. That's mechanical. That's a mechanics thing.
Tim, are you available tomorrow night for an hour? Let me know, man. If you are, let me know. Just for an hour.
You mean Stronghold D&D?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I didn't say the ever mysterious Tim.
I know, but you said Tim.
Oh, Stronghold. I'm sorry. I'll say Stronghold Tim. How's that sound? Does that sound okay?
You can say Strong Tim.
Stronghold Tim. Yes.
Just say Strong Tim.
Mysterious. So. Thank you, dude. So that's more mechanical, but the style has changed. That we were able to bring in a lot more spells and a lot more fun things that are able to do now, instead of fireball, lightning bolt, magic missile, and that's combat spells, right? Kind of that's the style addition change for me, and we can talk about that. Thanks, Rob. All right, so where do we begin in this discussion? Should we begin at the beginning and just say, here you are. What do I do? I'm a DM. I have decided I'm GREYHAWK. I'm going to play GREYHAWK, and I'm going to play in Hamlet. Well, let's start with that supposition. What happens from there? But I have no idea what edition I'm going to play. If I'm going to play Theater of the Mind, VTT, maybe get some miniatures, and then how half my people across the country, and only half of them are in person.
I was just going to say, that's the first. The big one is to figure out: is this going to be an in-person game or an online game or a hybrid game, so to speak? Because that will kind of change a lot of the other stuff, depending on especially the expensive stuff, meaning what props to use and stuff like that can cost a lot of money. Meaning choosing an edition doesn't cost that much money in a difference, so to speak. And all the editions are very cheap in that sense. All you need is to get a few PDFs from Drive-Thru RPG and you can be in business, so to speak.
BB, that's a great point. All right, so Anna would start her characters off at 0 and develop them.
It depends, but often I do. Yeah, if I want to start, and that's the other big issue. Is this going to be like a one shot? You're just going to play in GREYHAWK, play the module, that's it? Or is this a start of a long intended journey of characters over campaign arc spanning years?
I'm going to be a dick.
Yeah.
I watched Lord Kazumba and I want to do 44-year campaign.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
or 35 or 40, whatever Tim has for City State. We got to keep track of that, Tim. How many years do you think that is? We started in 86, City State, right after when you went to college? So so that's 39 years. 38, 39 years of City State. Yeah, so there you go. With the online game, you don't have to wear pants. Well, I don't have any on now, so I'm kidding. Of course I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to do a campaign setting. I wanted to run a campaign. I wanted to run because I want to keep my friends playing because I really love the game, the campaign setting. I really want to. I love this GREYHAWK. I just got the 5th edition D&D DM book. I love the maps here. I've been drawn here. What do I do? There you go. So step 2, yes. All right, yes. The underpants gnomes there, Rob. Thank you for that, Phantom NJ. That was awesome. Thanks for the hype train. We get over level 3. I'm doubling the giveaway, by the way. So there you go. All right. First things first. I don't know what edition I'm going to play. I've never played 5e before. I played, as an example, maybe I'm a 3rd edition guy and I'm a Pathfinder 1 1st edition person. But I know a lot of people don't like that. It's a lot of crunch. So what am I going to do? 5th edition, I think I can handle a little bit better. I'm definitely not playing 4th.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest aspects in choosing the right edition for you is something that you normally, when you start out, don't really think about, and that how much world building do you want to do? Are you just running, meaning this is a continuum. This is like one end, you get the adventure, you run adventures, you run the Homelet, you run Orlane, you run the Slave Lords, etc. You do all the cool GREYHAWK classics, and then you tweak them just a little bit. That's one end of the scale. The other end of the scale is I'm going to build my own version of GREYHAWK, period, so to speak.
That is a classic goal. I want that my players to experience GREYHAWK in its old school form.
Yeah,
that is a lot of people like on Will's Facebook group are that way, and a lot of the Facebook groups I noticed that's what they do, and they don't fill in at all with any homebrew in between, which is okay.
No, and also meaning if you want to run the old classics,
lore,
and run modules like that, then run them in the meaning then. Get first, second, do it like 1st, 2nd edition D&D and run the modules as written, basically. Then I don't think there's any doubt. You should use the old school. You should go with Osric or get 1st edition or 2nd edition books and just run with them. And tweak the home house rule just a little bit, so to speak. But that I think is the recommendation. If module play is your thing, then use that rule set that comes with them, and that's like 1st edition or 2nd edition. They are kind of fine, both of them, I guess, in that sense.
You could also it's an easy convert to Castles and Crusades, to
exactly,
OSE,
that's the thing. Yeah, exactly.
Osric,
Castle, old school essentials. There's plenty of new ones too that you can pick in. I think Shadow Dark is too niche for that play, because that I think that
you can run a 5-session adventure with a Shadow Dark.
Exactly,
game.
But if you want to run Homelet and the other modules, CNC would, I think, work perfect. They would, Osric will work great. 1st, 2nd edition D&D will work great. When we go into Pathfinder and 3rd edition era, then it's a little bit different. But on the other hand, those rule sets have a different sweet spot. Let's say you're more on the opposite end of the scale and say that I want to read these modules and I want to write my own content for the area. I want to visit Temple of Elemental Evil, but I want to visit the area. I want to run my adventures and I want to invent my own stuff. That's when you can start looking into other rule sets. And you want to do a lot of world building. Let's say you want to have rules for settlements, you want to have rules for economy, you want to have rules for how do they get notoriety, and so on and so forth. You want them to be warlords in an area, etc., meaning all kind of world building stuff. That's when you should look into 5th edition to some degree, Pathfinder 1st edition, 3rd edition, and so on. Almost any modern rule set, more modern rule set, works really well for that. Pathfinder 1st edition, I think, is an excellent, and even PF2. But PF2 has gone and become its own thing of lately.
Yeah, it seems to have.
So then you might have to house rule a little bit, but there are interesting possibilities. 3rd edition. Then go with Pathfinder because you can use all the 3rd edition books too. And the good thing is you can pick them up for peanuts now. There's lots of them that go cheap, and they're all available PDFs and stuff. So you can get them cheap. So that's That's one. Or you can use 5th edition too, because there are plenty of rules for that type of play. But that is a much bigger investment to begin with, way bigger.
Right. So
I would say, because I didn't get a chance to answer
in time.
Of course, Tim, absolutely, because I want to hear yours because you're a purist on. Yeah.
No, I would say that the most important thing is that the DM is the most familiar with all the rules.
Yeah.
So it should be run in the system with which you are most familiar, unless you're willing to do the lead up time of learning something new.
That's a good point.
So even if, let's say you only did 3rd edition, I would say then run the temple in 3rd edition, since you know it inside and out.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be retrograding yourself to trying to figure it all out. So it's better to upgrade it or find. I'm sure somebody's done a 3rd edition.
Oh, there's all sorts of conversions, and during the Living Greyhawk era, especially, all that stuff. So yeah,
I would say run it in the one that you know inside and out and that you like, so that way the players don't need to know all the rules. Because you could.
That's your job as a DM to know the system inside and out. Yeah.
Right. So and then going to 5th for the players is probably pretty easy. That the rules are not overly complicated, I think. So
I think it's probably one of the easiest ones to pick up.
Yeah, if you were going to jump to 1, jump forward, you'd probably want to do that one.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't want to jump to 3rd. I mean, I've done characters in 3rd and played 3rd, and my buddy was running it, and he was way more familiar with it.
Did 2.5-year campaign against the Giants using
Pathfinder. I've done 5th edition too. I played that.
Michael, it's not hard to convert, but yeah, a lot of
DM, you can just by fiat change and have it happen the way you want.
Absolutely.
So you don't even need to get hooked up into the mechanics if you are clever and fast enough.
I would say start with the last thing you want to do is, especially if these players are new, is you don't want to bog down where you're not sure on a question that they have and you got to look it up and all. I would ease into something if it was something you weren't comfortable with. I would take the edition that you're most comfortable with to start something new. But then maybe you add some abilities in from the other edition and you merge into it as you go. That's what I would do.
Use Castle and Crusades that's a pretty...
Yeah, C&Cs would be,
Is a good
It's good to see you, Zambies. Hopefully you're doing well. I need to get you in another game.
I've done that with some science fiction ones. I've taken the game and converted it to Aftermath mechanics.
And
what was that? What was that? I'm sorry. I heard that on the
science fiction games and converted it to Aftermath mechanics.
Oh, dude, I let you know that. We need to get into it. We need to do an Aftermath game, man. We really do.
I had so much fun. I have a day one falling scenario. It's a zombie apocalypse, of course.
Yes, you do. Of course it is. It's a Walking Dead on steroids. That's the one with the cell phones, right?
No, well, that's a different one. That's
oh my god,
that's a homegrown one. That one's really bad. No, this one is just your character is like,
hey, John.
A exotic dancer, or your character is a cop, or your character is a guy who works in an office. You're getting off the bus, and you all get off the same bus, and stuff's flying everywhere where you go. So you're like regular people before you've gotten feral,
I remember the last one we did. All I had was a loincloth and a tuba Neosporin.
Well, you refused to put yourself in the game.
Right, yeah.
Because you were like, I would go insane and kill myself. I wouldn't even be here.
Right, exactly. So I said, I'm not, yes.
We all did fantasy versions of ourselves, Anna, so we were all way better than we were. In reality. And we also, I pushed it into the future so I could bring some sci-fi elements in. So
my character had snapped. So yes,
it was a limited nuclear exchange plus biochemical, which turned people into zombies, and also electronic. So I took elements of The Cell by Stephen King. So you had those guys running around during the day, and then you had the virus zombies running around at night. So it sucked.
It was bad. My guy was not one for long.
We ended the scenario with you getting blasted up close with a shotgun, so you needed medical.
He refused to wear armor or anything.
But you were fast.
Yeah, fast. Yeah, not
with a
anymore in real life.
machete.
So, yeah, that's Tim. That's that you gotta understand. You know, if you saw Tim's game over at GreyHawk, Anna will explain to you that it was pretty gruesome, but it was fun. So,
Yeah.
so edition doesn't. Let's just put it this way: edition does not matter in a GreyHawk game. You can play it in any edition you want, but if you're going to start a game and you want to develop it, start it in something you know.
Yeah, and also start low level. If
Absolutely.
you're new to DMing, don't DM really high level, because then you get complex stuff like complex magic and their interact. Take low levels. The magic is simple, the rules are fairly simple, the monsters, and you don't need to worry about really complex stuff, so to speak. And things are fairly straightforward, and there are fewer, because one of the things, most rule systems, as you level up, there are more and more exceptions.
Yep.
Meaning a lot of the, especially like 5e is a game where character special abilities is breaking the current rules, meaning they can do things that are forbidden by the standard rules. That's part of their powers, so to speak. And as a DM, you need to understand all of these exceptions that the player characters have. And each class comes with new exceptions every time they reach a couple of levels, so to speak.
Yeah.
There are some rule systems that have way less of that, but 5e is notorious, and that's one of the appeals. As a player, you want your character to do cool shit, so to speak, that are not that you can't do normally. But since I'm a shadow ninja caster, whatever, I can do this cool stuff. But as a DM, that's tough, because you need to understand how that interact with your illusion or your trap or your demon that sits and lurks in the shadows and stuff. And then the player say, oh, my character's doing this cool thing, and roll a d20. And then you don't need, the players don't want you to sit and look through the rules for 10 minutes to figure out how the heck do I do this. You have to be able to do quick arbitration, so to speak, and rulings, and that requires a bit of finesse. You don't need to know all the rules, no one can, but you need to know enough of the rules that you can quickly convince your players with a simple, straight argument saying, this is, I'm ruling it this way, and just go with it. And the players need to trust that you understand the materia enough that you can, that it becomes fair and consistent, because those two words are important. I think that your rulings as a DM are fair, both to the monsters and to the player characters, players, because it needs to be exciting both ways, so to speak. And also that they are consistent, because players will pick up that, oh, it functioned this way previous or 2 sessions ago, now it functions this way. Which way is it? Players, as a player, you remember all that stuff immediately. And
Yep.
as a DM,
Yep.
you need to, and that's meaning, that's what we call D&D physics and stuff. So if you make a ruling, you need to build like a consistent experience, that the magic that an illusion is, you can't, illusions should function reasonably the same throughout the career of the character, so to speak.
Or you have
Yeah.
a good plausible story about why this
Exactly.
is different.
Exactly. You need to, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun in the game, because now you go down into the abyss or some other place, and now your illusions work differently, or these creatures can see through them, or they can interact with them in a different way, or whatever it is. So yeah.
Or how come they detected my illusions, but I couldn't detect theirs? It'd be like, well, they're more familiar with them
Yep.
because they're deceiving
Yep.
people all the time.
Yep.
By the
So
way,
you need to, oh, sorry.
no, I want the first hour to be the stuff outside of GreyHawk, and the second hour to be GreyHawk specific stuff. Okay, that's how we're going to do this discussion. All right.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of topics on it. Yeah, but you're dead on. Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I was going to say too, if you're starting a new system and new players to that system, make a number of encounters, whether you put them on 5x8 cards or whatever, have small encounters that explore the rule sets demonstratively, so they understand how things work. Also for you, so you get used to, referring those in the new system. That way there's no real major combat, maybe a brawl. How are you going to do unarmed that way? Or have a fight that gets stopped by the local,
a bar fight.
So that way everyone can kind of see how the combat works.
Bandits outside the city work. That works too.
Yep.
It's a lot of good things you can do.
Yeah. Make a bunch of small, but even interactions in a city or town between, how does your persuasion systems work. They're all different, but they based on the game, different games.
Yep.
You roll, so have those in your pocket so that way you can make sure that in the beginning everybody gets to stretch and get familiar with how rules work.
So the game for me is a constant playtest. Every adventure I do, especially with my special groups, I throw something in I haven't used in a long time or I want to try. Like, I created a new spell, Snowlock Snowball Avalanche, right? Which is a 5th level off of Snowlock Snowball Swarm. Ed's character, Ravalantar, is the first one to have it in his spell book. It got play tested.
How'd it work?
Instead of a die 3 per level, it's 3 die 3 per level.
So it's kind of like Ice Storm, right?
Well, it's safe for half. So, dude, it's 3 die 3 per level. So if he's a 9th level caster, it's 27 die 3. Safe for half, though. The average is 54. And it's a specialty spell, right? Yeah. It's a rare spell. It's not gonna be around a lot, So yeah, you need to have it. But so it was a play test of a spell I created myself based off of an initial spell, and I allow Ed's character Ravalantar collects named spells. He's a GREYHAWK mage, so that was a play test aspect. I like to do that kind of stuff. I want to see what it's going to do to the gameplay. Could be bad, could be good, but I can make it work in the game.
So. And you can go sledding afterwards.
Sure. So
and this is an aspect that comes in. If you start running games regularly, you will be a little bit of a game designer, because if you want to invent your own monster, you want to tweak a monster, you want to invent your own magic, your own cool magic item, that requires a bit of game design, and there are interesting. So whatever system you have, go to places. There are countless blogs and podcasts and stuff that discuss this stuff. Go find the ones that you like for your whatever rule system you're using and look at them, so to speak. And they're good, whatever. If you run old school or you run Osric or 5e or Pathfinder or whatever, there are CNC or something. There are good sites that lists these things, and there are good game design books, so you can know Legends. And the key things that you need. Yeah, one of the key things you need to do in this is to know how much damage can fighters and other characters and spells do at different power levels, so to speak, throughout the game. So you know how many hit points a monster that you want to be. If you have a 10th level party on average, so something that is scary need to be about this powerful and so on. So and that is now when I'm designing my own rules, I have Excel spreadsheets where I kind of put in all the theoretical maximums so I can see what the sweet spot for different, meaning if you have a 10th level fighter and you max out everything, how much damage can that character?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, so you need to, but that's more advanced. But if you want to go in the weeds, you need to at least have a basic idea. But the good thing is, if you use a published game system, someone has already done this. There's like Sly Flurries have the lazy DMs. They have awesome how the monsters are not stupid or whatever. I forgot what the book is called. Those books are fantastic because they have all that information. You can read through it and you can say, oh, a 10th level fighter can usually do this much damage, or a monster can do this much, or spells at certain levels. So you have these general idea of stuff. So if a player that plays a wizard comes and say, oh, I have this new cool cold spell and I wanted to do this much, then you can say, well, that's a 4th level spell because it's this powerful, or you need to tweak it or something. So
and there are ways around your play test too if you mess up. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah.
There should be also, you can also have certain spells you don't want them to have.
Oh yeah.
So by incorporating a magical college or school that has control of it, you can actually limit access to it, so that way they don't get that cool spell, until they
do a mission.
College. Yeah, you make it difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So they can't just pick everything they want.
Guilds are very important for doing that for Magic user guilds, especially in old school play, where I'm very nice on my special players. Anna, like last night we had 3 mages. We had I'm sorry, Anna. We had Ed playing Ravalantar. We had Tony Winslow Burl playing her fighter mage. Oh my God, Nixolia. And then we had Little Bird playing Lairja, her Clark mage. I allow them to spell point their magic
But-
spells. That
but-
so yeah.
Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
that makes sense because if you run a one shot at a convention or like on a stream or something, meaning this is a cool scenario, we will run it once and that's okay. But let's say I want to have a 5-year long campaign. We're going to play these characters for years. We're going to go a long, deep, awesome story arc. That's when you need to start worry way more about power levels and what you allow and so on, because that will get repercussions down the line. Because if you start handing out really cool stuff in the beginning,
Right.
players don't hate it when you take cool stuff away from your characters, whether that is spells they once knew, artifacts they have, magic items, or cool maneuvers your fighters can do. If you say, nah, that doesn't work, your character can no longer do this. That's no fun. So that means that you need to be more worried. But a one shot, just go, then you can run wild. It's not that important, so to speak. And that's the format of the game that determines the rules and stuff. Meaning there are some rule sets that, like Shadow Dark, for instance, I played it like 4 times and it's an awesome game system, but it's probably, from my opinion, not something I would like to see that much in a 5-year span long-term game. But if I want to play a 4-hour game at a game convention, Shadow Dark is probably among the highest on my list to play. So rule system have emphasized different ones. So Fate is another one that is fantastic if you just want to play some cool story in whatever universe. Fate game can be fantastic. But not for my long-term GREYHAWK campaigns.
Call of Cthulhu is a hard game to play long-term.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes,
that's
the same thing too. Yeah,
it's fun to play. It's really fun to play.
Yeah.
So, but
so rule systems are, and then we have the other thing, meaning what do you play with prop? Do you have a theater of the mind, or do you have an awesome game table and $50,000 of props?
Play styles.
Yeah, exactly.
3.
That's another
3.
issue, so to speak. Yeah.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah.
VTT.
Mm-hmm.
In-person miniatures and terrain.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it to
those are 3
3.
really basic, so to speak.
3.
Yeah.
Yep. Another one would be in person. I'm just using paper and I'm just pretending that I have miniatures and terrain, which falls under the miniatures and terrain game.
Yeah. Or you can sit in around the table and still do theater of the mind, so to speak. You can do that too. So
There's no right or wrong way to play this game. There's no right or wrong addition to play the game. So, and that's a thing that, and I'll say this, I am not a fan of VTTs, but when Tim is DMing and he's at his house and I'm here and then you're logging in and Carlos is logging in, everyone else, it is a lifesaver, right?
Yeah.
Because we both have Fantasy Ground licenses and we have the lifetime licenses, so we're going to use it. We don't have you roll in the system at all. We use it for the maps. Right, and the movement and the ease of moving all the for positioning. So a VTT serves a purpose. Now, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I in the beginning I didn't like VTTs. Now I love them. Yeah. I really love them, and I would bring a TV to my physical game so I can show all the cool maps and stuff because I don't have to print them. I can show handouts, character portraits, illustrations or whatever, and just put a TV flat screen on or a projector on the game table.
I still have this in my mind as a project to build one of those tables that has a TV mounted into it, so the map is on the clear tabletop.
I
understand that, but it's not big enough. For me, it's not big enough.
No,
that's when you have
but the map can slide.
Yeah,
the map can slide. You can do it at different scales. And
I understand. And Mark has one where he can close it up and open it, but it's just if he has a whole terrain setting on top of it, it's hard to open it up. There's a lot of that.
I'm just looking at it for Mark, my son, and his friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
man. Absolutely.
And the drawback with having a TV like that is that it's not that impressive, meaning an awesome game table full of miniature and terrain looks and feels much more awesome.
More impressive than I normally have.
Exactly. But the beauty of the game of having a TV is that you can display anything and you can change it instantly. So if you just go and have no idea what the next encounter will be, the characters can go anywhere in a sandbox. Then it's really cool because that way your props doesn't dictate the story. The story can go in any direction and you can just scroll along the map or draw something quickly. And the same thing if you have these tiles that I have and you use dry erase markers. That means you can come up with something on the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
The character go in any direction. You can just draw it and boom, you can be anywhere, so to
Dry
speak.
erase, dry erase
Yeah,
tiles.
tiles.
Kind of
Yeah.
how I did with Mark.
Yeah.
When we did
so there,
L1.
yeah. So, but the drawback is that
adventure.
it doesn't look that cool and so on. The good thing is that it's cheap, versatile, and fast.
But my storytelling is cool.
Yeah.
Let's say
So
it.
yeah, and the also thing is that from Jay's perspective, and from if you're a streamer or at a convention, you might want you have an audience. It's not only the players, you have other people too invested in the game.
Yeah.
And that's where I think cool props and an awesome game table fills a bigger purpose than just entertaining the players as a DM, because the game is there for more than the participation around the table. And that's a big consideration to choose how you play it as well, so to speak.
So yeah, and there's no. Like I said, I'm not bashing Theater of Mind. Theater of Mind's great. I mean, there's some unbelievably descriptive DMs. I just from day one, Tim and I, we really didn't play that way. Right?
Well, I mean, actually, I would argue we did play that way, because all we did was have that little graph paper, and we had figures out just to have ideas where positions are in general, not exactly to scale.
Thanks, Terry.
But we still, that's how we did it. So most of it was actually Theater of Mind. It's just that we were present together, and then we weren't measuring how far the figures were. We kind of notionally said what the distances were. So the figures were just an aid in communicating where we were physically in the game world.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, I want to emphasize that point, because Theater of the Mind should always be on top of whatever technology props system you use. You should always kind of, because it's like you can have scribbles on a piece of paper, you can have a fancy game table, or you have a VTT, but to me, you can have too much detail, both in a VTT or you can have props, and you can put little what's on the game table, on the dinner table for the character at the ball or something. I want to have, and this is something I've figured out the last 10 years, I want a little bit less of that, because I want to preserve the theater of the mind. So both the players as DM, you can improvise in the moment. And therefore, you should leave enough ambiguity, whatever technology and props you're using, so you can use theater of the mind on top of whatever it is, whether it's VTT, whether it's game table or dry erase markers. You should leave enough room for that kind of awesome detail to play in, that the players and a DM you come up with on the fly, so to speak.
With Anna's setup, she's using her own maps and embedding them into a VTT. Are you using Owlbear? Which one are you using?
Oh yeah, I use the Owlbear Rodeo.
Rodeo. Okay.
Yeah, and that came out with a fantastic upgrade. Now you can use maps that are 144 megapixels in size, and you can put multiple ones. I think I'm going to test to put the whole of Shieldlands at porta potty scale in there, and it might work.
Wow!
So you can move the characters around the whole country. Yeah.
I've used maps like this on the tabletop.
Right.
That was the Beast of Red Nelb, and then
and
this is what I was using, scans of that for the for a last game, just to give an idea. Because I think, Anna, you're correct. I think if it's too detailed, it actually distracts and takes away from.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to see. It's so spectacular on the table Jay has. It's hard to see where the characters are, because there's so much awesome.
I know. That's why I got the new cameras. Like, wow, that's why I got the new blow up cameras. Right.
Yeah.
I did that. Yeah. So
and one interesting aspect when I see with especially in the BTT field and the awesome maps that people do, and including my own maps, is that you detail the stuff that is in the room and the house, so to speak, or meaning you put an enormous amount of detail into the local stuff, the stuff that is close by, and you have no idea of what's outside the building. And for me, I want to do the opposite. I want to have a detailed world and a sketchy close-up. it sounds counterintuitive, but it's the
I understand
want,
what you're saying.
Yeah, I want you as a player to know where your character are, where you come from,
but not what's
and
around
what
the
option.
corner of the building.
Exactly. I want to
I
know so you
understand
know where
that.
the options are. So
Yeah.
if I run around that corner, what is there, so to speak? And is my character feeling safe? Are we sitting in a whatever? So I want the close-up details to be theater of the mind primarily.
But
But
it allows you to tweak them and change them
exactly
on the fly if you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. But I want to detail the big picture and then simplify the close-up. Yeah.
So this, for those new, don't get frustrated by this discussion as we get technical, okay? Roll20 is free, right? Roll20.
Oh yeah, and Owlbear Rodeo has a free tier and stuff. You can test out almost all of them for free.
Yeah. And also there's no reason you can't just have your people and you log them into your Zoom or Skype, or you log them into your Discord, and you just talk like all the GREYHAWK Reborn events that we do during Virtual GreyHawk, right? They're all that way. Thanks, Patrick.
There's another cheap solution. I got a second webcam, and I put it on one of these little arms for your
for the map.
desk light, and then you draw erase markers on my tiles. So and the webcam, $50, and you're up and running. You can use your same stuff, so to speak. So
I did that for the Underdark game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Meaning there are cool workarounds if you want to use tabletop technology. And you can integrate that into Foundry, for instance. There is a module where you can just plug that straight into Foundries. You can combine the old school of drawing stuff on with dry erase markers using counters with the rest of the stuff from a VTT. So there are interesting blends, and that is getting better and better. So
and take it and make it easy to start, and then make enhancements. My table now is not my table 6 years ago. I've upgraded all my cameras. I've upgraded my sound. I've upgraded my PC twice. Zana's probably done it 7 times her PC in the last 6 years.
They usually last about 5 years or so.
5 years? Really? Well, since I've known you, you've upgraded multiple times your PC.
Oh, yeah, but I have 2 computers. So each of them live about 5 years, and then they move down the food chain, so to speak.
I've figured out all the technical issues, and even with that, I disconnected last night right in the middle of the stream for no reason other than it was Comcast, because Zoom went out. When the Zoom goes out, we know it's Comcast. So, and things are always going to happen, but that streaming is a whole nother thing. So you don't really need to worry about that as much, but play as easy or as difficult, detailed as you want, but make it so your players have access to what you're doing and they are not frustrated with it. That's probably the best advice I can give. If my players couldn't see, sometimes I got to move the cameras around, but if they couldn't see what's going on, or like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'd have an issue, right? And sometimes, I forget to move the camera or whatever, but I'm talking about all the time. You know what I'm saying? Or if someone doesn't understand how to use a VTT and you're making them move the miniatures, instead the chits, instead of you're moving them for them, take it so that you take that off of your players. I take all calculations off my players. Roll the dice. That's what I want you to do, and I'll do all the calculations. That way you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's one of my inspiration for Hawk Tales. Is how you do, because I wanted that in the rules. But I'm doing inspiration, but in a way opposite, because I want the players to do as much calculations as possible. Because I'm a lazy DM.
So you're like Shay, you're the lazy DM.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Anna, in your game at Page, I'm going to calculate that I get big pluses every time.
Oh, Tim, did you and your son get in that game?
Nah, just me.
Okay.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
That's Tim's playing his game.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Michael too.
Yeah.
And
Michael Zudrak is.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
So and one of the inventions I'm doing in Hawk Tales is that instead of the monsters rolling attack rolls, the players roll defense rolls for their players, their characters. It's the same math. It's just the fluctuation is on the defense side. Meaning normally in armor class in D&D is 10 in 5e from 3rd edition onwards. It's 10 plus whatever bonus you have, and
Right.
then the
Calculating
monster.
some big bonuses here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the monster rolls a
Tim's hitting every
d20 on the
time.
attack. I do the opposite. The monster has a DC that is 10 plus their attack bonus, and then the armor class is a plus on the
Okay.
d20. So the math is the same. It's just that the roll happened on the player side, and the player can do. And that means, because I want, as a DM, I want to be able to concentrate on more higher stuff, meaning monster tactics, how do magic resistance work, and stuff like that, instead of doing the number crunching, because I want the players to be and doing a lot of that. And I also want the players to be busy when the monsters are doing things. So instead of the player sitting there waiting and say, oh, I took 6 points of damage, now they have to, okay, I need to get my defenses straight here, and so on. I'm so far it worked, but it's been a little bit iffy in the beginning because I didn't have proper character sheets. So I made proper character sheets now. So we'll have that on. So that will help.
Sparky, here's an example you can relate to, and I think you all can relate to this. It would be cool last Saturday night if I did the joust and I did it in Theater of the Mind. But it's even cooler that the miniatures are out and every single one has a miniature and the field is there and you see all who's in the stands.
Yeah, and
especially
when you stream it. Yeah, especially when you stream
that's
it,
an
it's
example.
fantastic.
Yeah. So an example of an enhancement. Make sure your VTT, if you use it, is enhancing your game too. And Sparky said, he does a lot of Theater of Mind, but the combat where there's stuff all over the place. And for, you got to have some way of. I respect. No, it's okay. I respect the Theater of the Mind ones that say they keep track of where everyone is positioning in a game. I mean, I would lose track. I would.
Yeah.
I would absolutely lose track. But some keep the combat small or keep the interaction small. So
I've had in college. I've had largest game. It's 12 players, but they had like a number of ash and trash people handling wagons and all this and the big movements and so you whitewash the stuff that doesn't directly
right.
And everyone knew. I would go around the table. The order we did was around the table.
Yeah.
With their actions for their turn.
Yeah, and one of the, if you don't have a too big of a party, meaning if you have lots of players, you need to be more organized. But let's say you have a normal party of like 4 or 5 players, or like 3 to 5, which is kind of up to maybe 6. Then if you have a situation and you're describing it and you reach into combat, just continue. Don't roll for initiative. Just continue with Theater of the Mind. And then when players start asking like, oh, how does this work? And where's the position? Then while you're doing it, you set up the game table. So that way you can keep the momentum going, so to speak. That's one of the key bit is to don't stop, and Jay is doing it so well because you know your rule system and you already have a lot of pre-set up terrain and stuff like that. So, but let's say you simply run a game and you don't have all this cool props and you don't have 40 years of experience. Try and just continue the story and let the go in, and then when something happens, you roll the dice, you let the player roll the dice, and just continue. And then if there's a lot of questions, but then while you're doing it, you set up the game table and you simply start putting miniatures and or tokens or dice or whatever it is, and just do a basic figure. So gradually evolve it, so to speak, and try to keep momentum. Don't let the roll for initiative kill all the suspense and all the story. I played so many games where everything is fun, interesting, and I say, okay, roll for initiative. And then it becomes a math exercise and roll dice, and all the role playing goes out the window. And that, I think, is key bit for, at least in my opinion, for a good DM, is that you keep the game interesting and multifaceted, even when there's combat.
Right. Okay. Tim, did you have something to say for that? I thought you were going to say something else. No. So, are you glad we got Fantasy Grounds for the games for the city state?
I was. Okay. I mentioned in there that the Fantasy Grounds. We did that one time. Wasn't very. I don't remember how much money. It wasn't very much, but you had. Once you paid into it, you had.
That's it.
Exactly. It's a lifetime license.
Lifetime.
Yeah, we both got licenses.
So that just once we did that, it didn't make sense to try. To push to do something else. Since we both have it. But if I was gonna and eventually I'm gonna run one myself.
So
I'm going to probably use Owlbear Rodeo.
Yeah. And
one
if
second,
everyone doesn't have.
after he's done. I didn't tell Tim a secret, and I've had this for 4 months. I have a lifetime license for you and me for Dungeon Alchemist, and I haven't given it to. I haven't done it yet or given it to you yet either to mess
Well, I
around
don't
with.
even know what that is.
Look it up, and then you go, "Oh my god!"
yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I've
I have that.
looked at it.
I'll show it to you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I found out what my Christmas present is.
Yeah.
I'll
send you the
used
code.
it, but it's
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. That there and yeah, it's a thing you can create maps and yeah, like dungeon maps and stuff like that. And it has a lot of AI will be to push it because it's not the large language model
for
AI and stuff,
maps.
but it uses I would say procedural is probably the right word to place props in the buildings as you go, and then you can move them up and adjust. So you don't have to sit the hand paint things. You can just say, well, this is an inn, and it will populate things, and then you can just, oh, I want the fireplace over here. You can drag it around. So it does a lot of the groundwork for you, so to speak. The software is really smart that way.
Yeah. The guy gave me 2 copies, one for me, one for you. So just note that, and because
that's awesome.
I'm always getting bribed because everyone wants to.
Mm-hmm.
I add. So by the way, everyone, hopefully Michael's still on. I'm officially adding For All God Games as a full-time sponsor. Okay, just so you're aware. All right, so
awesome.
there we added another. For All God is now going to be full-time.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, it's worth it. It's worth every penny.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'll let you mess with it.
It's basically like those cool tiles that you could get.
Right. It's almost like
but it's 3-dimensional.
Right, but it's not like Tailspire where you're moving. It's more of a. It's
no,
more
Tailspire is like a digital Lego.
Yep.
This builds in a different way, but Tailspire is really cool too. But
I've been looking at. I have a whole bunch of the PDFs of all those tiles that you could get and cut out and build stuff with. And I was going to try to figure out how I could cut them out and build maps for use on Fantasy Grounds that I could make my own, make my own stuff. But this looks like it's easier.
Well, I'll get it over to you probably tomorrow. All right. So, yeah, Geek, it's good to see you. Hour 2 will be more specific to Greyhawk. Hour 1 is on your own on DM evolution, your tools, play style, edition, all that. So yeah.
For Paige, I'm gonna get the maps I have printed on a
dry erase
on a plotter. No, they only have them printed on a plotter.
Yeah.
And then have them there, just so the map will be out.
Yep.
Because they'll be familiar with their environment because they're
2 for the winner.
They're starting out as prisoners as well.
Imagine that.
That was the Tale of Rattlebones. These are the survivors from his.
Too bad Will's not there.
Well, he got sold. His character was ransomed to the Split Rock people.
Oh, that's right.
That's
right. Okay.
The four that were with him, they weren't important enough, so they were just stuck.
Crazy stuff, man. You're nuts.
One of them was charmed.
All right. So, anyone, give us some questions on or ideas on edition, ideas for you as a DM, and also play style, whether connectivity and things like that. I'm going to give you something I do when using miniatures, and I use group initiative because I have too much to worry about. If I'm using a VTT, I'd probably use individual. If I was deep into the VTT, because it calculates it for me, but I will pick either closest to the action or furthest from the action, depending on how the setup is, and I will call out who goes boom, 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 because I want the game moving. Keep the game moving. Do not. Advice is for a DM. Don't let combat bog you down. I won't talk about the 1 hour plus rounds from Tim back in the 80s. I won't talk about them. I'm just kidding, Tim. No, but I'm not. I had them too. Well, our fights
we all had them.
Our fights were so extravagant back then.
Yes.
6 dragons with 6 cavaliers all mounted in the air. Of course, it's going to take hours. Yeah, those were the days.
I would do it differently now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think that's part of the evolution. All of us, at least I think so, all DMs and players, you go through when combat is really fun and you want to dig really, really deep into it. That's part of I think everyone is like the Monty Hall phase. You want all the cool treasure and you want to do deep simulation or
Like
detailed combat, and you want all the hit zones, and you want all the weird things and all that stuff. You want to really emphasize the combat side of it. And then after a while, you've been there, and you start feeling like it's a slog. I deal out on damage, or I miss, and you roll and you miss, and you roll and you miss, and you go back and forth, and it becomes a long slog. And 3 hours later, you realize, damn, the whole evening has gone, and we've done 6 rounds. And when that becomes, then you realize, then you're probably done with heavy simulistic combat a la 3rd edition or 4th edition or something. So then you might say, well, let's simplify combat and emphasize on other stuff instead, so to speak. So, and that's the cool thing with this game, you can evolve and change things. So how you do it. Yeah.
Greg, I'll answer that in a second. So I just linked Cannibal Publishing to download my Free City of Altamira teaser, because I want you all to, if you haven't yet, please read the preface. Why Altamira exists is because of Tim. And that weekend down in Fairfax, Virginia. Because adventure number 2 after we finished Temple of Elemental Evil was the Knights of the Eastern Sun adventure, where Tim in round 2 or 3 killed the entire party except for Gazumba and Fensick, and everyone else perished. Remember?
Yeah.
And so we had time, and we had to do a 3rd adventure. So let's set up some keeps right here in this part of.
I can't believe
GREYHAWK.
they fell for that.
So yeah. It's gonna come, John. Just once they get through all the health issues and all, we'll be good. But yeah. So
it was a phantasmal force.
Yes. So 2 phantasmal forces.
Yeah, and they didn't disbelieve and they didn't save.
Yeah, wine, chocolates, and TBK. It was more beer. A lot of beer. We told Coco.
Beer and
we
farts.
told Thursday night. We told Coco, Bunny, and Curtis the story of the fart song too, and we won't go into
amazing.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
Yes, when you're 18 years old, it's very amazing. So, all right, Greg had a great question. How do you end? What's a good way to come up with an ending to a campaign besides a TPK? First off, I never want a campaign to end. An adventure path can end, but a campaign can't. Those characters you're gonna take, say they're whatever level you end them at, you're gonna retire them, and they're gonna be the people that are hiring your new players. Or
they're going to find that retirement job. Right. They're going to get that political posting. Yes. They're going to set up a fief. They're going to teach at a magic college. They're going to get married with kids and just take it easy.
Exactly. And generational
and then
characters.
Become a mentor for some next party.
No godhood, Lord Forth. No godhood. Godhood does not have. No one's ascending to godhood in my game. Open a brothel. Well, we do. We have the tickling feathering in Altamira. So there you go, John. We have that already.
We don't like trafficking, so no.
Yes. So but that's my suggestion is, Greg, is don't end it. Take that as an advantage. Go, look, these characters are, we're going to finish these up, whatever level you decide at, and say, all right, the group wants to go their separate ways. One goes here, one goes to GREYHAWK and studies. The other goes and creates a little guild of whatever. That's what I would do. One becomes a trainer.
I did end a campaign with a high secret order witch fight.
Yeah, but that was a TBK.
Right, but that's how I ended the campaign.
Besides TBKs, yeah.
Well, one got away, and the other one was imprisoned. And later, the next adventuring group ran across the chamber in the underground where that person was imprisoned, and they freed the person manually.
Yeah. Use that as an advantage to create more richness and dimensionality to your campaign, because now they have characters that existed their own, like yesterday. SM Mining Interest Limited last night, and I know everyone's joking. S&M Schlemmen Meal. That character is the oldest. Walt's had that character since 1978 or 79.
Right, he's a colleague of Leuven.
Yeah, absolutely, and Anna's adventure with Leuven during the first fundraiser. He's an 18th level halfling thief. So just note that these characters should never exit the game permanently unless they go off somewhere on the other side, like the Blue Wizards in Middle Earth. Even they may come back. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do.
Leuven is a thrift shop now.
Yeah.
Meaning old characters are a gold mine for assets, exactly, to be used as NPCs or in future, because they tie into the story of your game. So it's really important. Yep.
They can all go off in the sunset, but I would have them go off in the sunset and then become something in your game
and have them as
NPC
cameos.
You can, yeah, absolutely. A
Yep.
cameo all the time.
I had
Yeah.
because I did the Dark Hand, but the underdog adventures are happening beforehand, and I had Carlos's character as a cameo with one of the underdog adventures to kind of cover how
Absolutely.
he got certain magic items that he started with. So he started with these ice seeds on one of the underdog games.
Thanks.
He helped them, and then part of the deal was he got these ice seeds, which he finally used in the last game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and then you keep the players invested in your campaign too, because then they are a big part of the overall story.
Absolutely.
and the yeah.
Cameos are great. And here's another example. Last night, the tomb you found was Third Ann Flintblade, which is Durgrim Flintblade, which is Rob, Phantom NJ's character, and he just said I wasn't, I was barely, I was off. And they got his sword, axe, and I know you don't use an axe, so I said in the role play part, Durgrim's not going to mind that Rylan took it because you don't use an axe, so you'd be honored that another dwarf in your group took it. So there you go. So it all worked out, and that's it. Interlock characters and players. Interlock characters.
He didn't take it. He elected to bury it.
Yes, and have other people, like I'll have Curtis jump. Curtis jumped in last night at the end of the adventure. He just jumped on his Fritz, which is awesome. I love doing that stuff. So
just so he could tax him.
Yeah. Rev Lenter is a money.
Life and experience points.
Ed's character is a money from the Tickling Feather. He's there all the time. So yeah, I went to a dwarf. Absolutely, he's a dwarf of Klangaden, just like your uncle and your father, Phantom Rob. So there you go. I made it. Connection. Greg, does that help you with your question? Hopefully it does, because we're going to go into hour 2, and we're going to start talking some GREYHAWK now, some depth in GREYHAWK to help. So I'm going to share some. I'm going to share this. And,
are we going to talk about additions?
We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about some things that you can do to enhance as a DM. GREYHAWK. You can talk about City State too, Tim. It's okay. It's just, what do you do to enhance the DM evolution in the setting itself? All right, makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think people should hear what you've done in City State because it's fantastic. You talk. I love you to talk about what you've done in your Rovers too.
No, I was just asking for clarification.
Oh yes. So you're going to wrap up that. So let me ask you a total question, Greg. Why are you going to wrap that up? Is it just it's run its course? And you want to start with new characters? I run its course. I have 27, 28 adventuring groups, and there's, so it runs its course to get bored, but we go back to them. So, yeah, it's all good. All right, here, let me bring something up here. Sam did a compilation, and by the way, I will put this, Sam, I converted it over to PDF, so I will put it in Cannon Fire Discord and GREYHAWK Events Discords.
Oh, well, Justinius, just have them fall into a pit that's full of whites, so they get drained about half their levels. And they have to abandon all their stuff to climb out. And then there's, there you go.
Or a mediocre jelly that Tim had.
Mediocre jelly.
Yes. All right.
It drains their levels to their mediocre.
You are, and their stats. You were one disturbed person.
I invented that for one.
All right. So there were several editions of the GREYHAWK setting book each year as added additional details. Sam put this together for us. So here's some options for you, and we're gonna some things. Where am I starting? We're going to assume not high full class. Jeez, listen to me. We're assuming Hama just for this case. But that doesn't mean you have to start in an early edition. We can talk about all that. So, and Sam says that you got the folio and the box set first, and they're scrolling through, by the way, on the other page, so you can see them. And if you have any questions, Curtis, no problem, man. Enjoy, and thanks for hanging in there, and thanks for coming on last night. There's the 80 and 83 box set from the Ashes, 584. I thought the wars were 585. Yeah, and it talks about that. A second book was detailed, provided updates to City of GREYHAWK. That is Roger Moore's. That is GREYHAWK: The Adventure Begins. He's talking about there. Didn't advance the setting as its own. Wars is a game set, but so. Thank you, Hager. Good to see you. Then you got the Living GREYHAWK book in 1998. the player. You did the Adventure Begins here in here 98, and then the Adventure Begins is the Living Ground Gazetteers 2000, and that's about it. And there's details and data for Greyhawk all throughout these books. So, what does that mean? Each of the successive setting books and box sets contains more information and detail on the setting. The larger ones advance the date. While this information is not necessarily to play, is quite useful and many people appreciate it. However, the changing start date leads to much contention and a certain bit of confusion, especially for new players. True. Compounded by arguments over which is the best. True. Or most true. That's true. Everything you said here to the original setting. While I certainly have my preference, the truth is much simpler. The starting date does not matter. 100%. The starting date does not matter. Any of the books can be used to run the setting in any starting year you would like, 100%. Further, most of the old adventures can be run in any starting year you would like. All right. The additional detail in later books can certainly be helpful, though it is not so essential that it should overwhelm or intimidate a new player. Most of old timers started with a folio or gold box, yes, or gold box games on our Commodore 64, playing Forgotten Realms games too. So.
I would say if you start remote, not in the middle of a big giant thing, most of these events happening are kind of like what happens on the news. Almost everything on the news, unless you're in some extreme specific point, is actually irrelevant. Even if you never heard of it, it wouldn't even make a difference in your day to day.
Yeah.
So that's why you start in a remote place, and that way you don't have to worry about all the details if you're not familiar with them. And then, you can feed them in as you become familiar as a DM, and that way you don't have to try to like become a degree holder in Greyhawk history.
It's a good one, Rob. Going later on, I'm in the later on just because of the progression. Someone on a Facebook page asked me, "Well, I am not a fan of the wars, and I'm starting. So, would you recommend 576?" And I said, "Sure, but why not start it a few years earlier than that? Just give you more time, because I don't know how quick your years pass by. Start it in 573 or 572, or do what I do. Go back to the Battle of Emerald Meadows in 569. You're not hurting anything by doing that. I mean, start earlier. There's no reason why you have to start in 576. And there's no reason why you have to start at 591 if you're living Greyhawk era, or 580. For the wars person, 584, 585. There's no reason. Start whenever the heck you want to start.
Or just run some games in the beginning. Don't even bother setting them in time. And this also depends on, do you just want to run the cool modules? Meaning you want to play, you might not want to say, I want to set all my games forever in the Greyhawk setting and develop it like crazy. You simply say, I want to play Greyhawk. I want to run the Homelet. I want to run the dozen or so popular classic old games. Then don't worry about setting in and just run the games and run the modules. And then after that, then if you really like the setting, then you can dig deeper into it and decide. Or you simply say, well, I'm going to make Greyhawk my home for my games. Then it might becomes a big issue where you want to start, so to speak. But it depends on what the purpose of the game is. If you just want to play through the classics, then don't worry about it. Just play through the classics. Yep.
So let me. So I'm going to risk downloading something here that I'm going to show later for Wednesday night. So I just need to. I need
to buy for Crash.
Well, yeah, I'm saying be forewarned if I go bloop. So but Gary just sent me something, and I'm just bringing it up here. All right, there we go. All right, so it looks like so good. Yeah, it's awesome. It's really nice looking. Okay, but we're fine. We're fine. Okay, so starting year is the number one question we get, and then another question is, well, I'm a 5-year. Can I use Goliaths? Can I use Tieflings? The answer is yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you can.
Right. If you want to do it the wrong way, it's perfectly fine.
What's that?
I said, if you want to do it the wrong way, that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because who am I to tell someone what you can and can't do with your game setting?
Did you actually hear what I said, Jim?
Yeah, I did. I did. I did.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know you're just kidding. I know. But that's something. And there's a lot of, tricks, I would say. So let me give you an example here. Let me give you an example. let's go to the starting area. We're talking about starting this group. Oh, we're just going to start in Hamlet, right? And with the time frame from Hamlet, there are oodles and oodles of resources. There are adventures before Hamlet, like Joe
That is
Block's.
kind of cool. That
Right.
is really cool. So
Yeah.
have the A0 and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
T0
Absolutely.
maybe it was. Yeah.
T0. There are adventures
Yeah.
that Joe Block's
And
created.
there's an A0 for the Slave Lord campaign and a T0 for the
Absolutely. There are adventures I've discussed that I put in between T1 and T4. There are other adventures people have shown you on many different blogs and many different resources how they connected T1 all the way through to A1, all the whole way through, all the way through to G series. So you can use that. There's all different ways you can take this and look at it and go, well, this is what I want to do. Or you can say, I'm a home brewer and I want to, and I don't even want to use, I'll use Hamlet as a setting point because it's great. It's already developed, but I'm going to run my own adventures off of it. Great. Nothing wrong with that. So, and I'm going to give you an example of that in another setting. So, Tim, talk about like how you've diverted off of End City State. Like, it's completely off. It's your idea, right? So, talk about.
I was too busy typing out.
That's right. Talk about like your city state and what you've done for the city state. And I'm going to go and I'll bring up the book for it. Yeah.
The biggest change in the city state adventure campaign I run is its surroundings are different. They're influenced by the Wilderlands, but they are my rendition in my world, because when I first started this, I didn't have the full Wilderlands map. So I didn't even have the map that it was home to when I was a kid. So I put it in my world and created the areas around it. And then as I got more details, I'm putting the same towns and whatever in the vicinity so that, there's references to each other. They're just in my world at different locations that are kind of similar to where they are in the Wilderlands.
Absolutely.
The distances are greater in my version. I think as far as it's further away from the city state. And the other variable kind of I've developed the Temple of Pagana, which is Pagana is I'm using it as another continent somewhere that most people don't know where it's at. And they have different gods, and that's why there's a temple there. But I actually used this book written in the late 19th or early 20th. I can't remember exactly which, but somebody wrote a fantasy version of the gods of Pagana. They just made them up. And so I've used that as an influence for that religion, which you haven't interacted with very much. But that temple played a big factor in the last revolt in the city-state, where all the middle-class merchants and guilds revolted against the overlord for overtaxation.
Oh, wow.
And the beast of Pagana came out, and he had it was a standoff, and he kind of had to relent on taxation and give him a bunch of concessions and stop taxing him.
Cool.
The other thing I've changed is I've taken some elements from the Necromancer Games city state and embellished the Overlord with things from that version.
Nice.
Yeah. They went into a little bit more detail about how he became so invincible.
Right.
Still, in essence, the same, but a little bit more on how he became. He's not just a fighter. He's a very accomplished. Interplanar adventure. He's gone to different planes of existence and
it makes total sense.
Wisdom from the various who's and what's it's from wherever's, and so.
Yeah, thinking of doing a theme: Untold Tales of GREYHAWK. Pick a location and
I have the undercurrent of the overthrowing of the slavery in the city state, and then eventually that will lead to conflict with the overlord that you're gonna run into.
Well, there's always going to be conflict with the overlord, but I'm looking forward to it. My character can hold her own for the most part. Not all, Deep breath. It is a challenge. So, and Anna, if we go to your, and I appreciate you sharing that, Tim. So if we go to your area that you're developing now, I'm just throwing it out there. It's this area of the Shield Lands down here, right? Down in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So give us some of the tricks of the trade you've done.
Where's the patrol happening?
It's all.
It's happening east of Quitwall.
Yeah.
8 miles. We start about 9
here.
miles east of Quitwall, and where we will be at when we get to the to Page will depend on what happens at Gamehole Con now, because I'm going to continue the characters. So when we get to Gamehole Con, we're going to pick up where we dropped off at Virtual GREYHAWK Con, and then I will play through at Gamehole Con, and then we will pick up. There might be a session or two in between. So it depends on where the setting is. I will just pick up where we go roughly, so to speak, depending on where we end, so to speak, and then pick up from there. So try to make it into a new scenario. So that's so I told some of my players at GameWorld they can actually watch the stream on Twitch afterwards and see what happened and use that to use that to build from there. So, and the next session for Gamehole Con, the episode name is The Devil You Know. And so there, it's a bit of uncharted territory there. So that's the stuff. So what I did was I read through the stories and as much as information I could on the Shield Lands, and then I created the terrain for the whole of the Southern Shield Lands, down to every building and every tree and everything. So I had the terrain, so I knew this is the sandbox. This is what it. But the thing is that you can't develop all the houses without knowing the story. So I had to develop my stories, my histories of the city. So when I developed the Quitwall, I developed that city in parallel with its development. So I thought, okay, what is the history of Quitwall? Because the history of Quitwall is like 2 paragraphs in all the published lore. So I had to sit down and invent the story, so the story of Quitwall fits into the story of Shieldlands without changing any published lore, so to speak. I just have to riff off it and fill in all the blanks. So I wrote basically like a 4-page summary of the 4,000-year history of Quitwall. And I started not by doing the final map of Quitwall. I started with doing the map of Quitwall in the beginning. And then I used that to create a map. Okay, how is it 500 years later?
So is it the fortifications are there because of the resources of the city, or is the city built up because of the fortifications were there for military purposes?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, because Quitwall has several stages. It started out because it's a strategic location. It's a hill on a peninsula in the big river, so it's very defensible, and that's why the original Flan settlers, when they came, the original Flan came, they realized this is a good spot to have our hunting location because we can go up and down the river, we can do expeditions left and right, and we can build a defense. So they built a little town with some wooden fences and palisades up on the top of the hill, so they can, because then you can see enemies coming for miles, so to speak, and so you can get reinforcement coming in from the river even if you're surrounded, and it's hard to lay a siege to the place. So that's where it started, and then came the first Origians, and the first Origians came, and it was like a mix and stuff. And then came the Great Kingdom. They had the big push when they started to settle the north, and they, for the same reason as the Flan, but between there was like the Vecna and stuff like that. There were numerous things going on in the old Flan world that affected this, but not so much in the city. They had like some undeath was invented and the whole thing. Yeah. So, but these were more for flavor. They didn't affect the city. But the big push came when the Great Kingdom came and say, okay, we go to settle the north, and they needed a base of operation. That's when the modern day. Exactly. That's in the 200s or something like that, early 200s, when the expansion phase of when they settled the Great Kingdom and Furiundi and Veluna stuff, and they wanted a base to move north. They created the modern, and they built first they built on top around the Flan village, they built one set of the first kind of, they built a huge strong fortress at the top, a keep and a strong fortress, and they built a wall around that one. So they had the first bastion, so to speak, to stage. And then they built the second, they started building the second one for when they had the first one secured, then they build the second one. And then they say, oh, now we are a huge empire. We have millions of people. So they started building the huge expanse. They built a port and they started building defenses for a city of 40, 50, 60,000 people. The problem is that then the Grey Kingdom started to fall apart. And that's when all the settlers and so on and all the big plans they had didn't happen. So now they were sitting with a defense work for a city with 50, 60,000, maybe even more citizens. So that means that there's a forest inside the city defenses, but they managed to hang on to the defenses barely. But they were supposed to build the northern part of the peninsula was supposed to be walled in as well. That never happened. So there are only little remnants of things that never happened. So that was part of creating a living environment that has the history, so to speak. And I did this on a grand scale for a big city. You can do the same thing for a little village and it's 5 miles surrounding.
Right. So
yeah.
2 questions. Just for GREYHAWK Mike. What's the population of Kretwald right now?
It's about 20,000 people.
Dead
25,000.
2.
Yeah.
Would you consider your style a grand scale, detailed, but in a sandbox setting? That's what
it's a grand. I use sandbox. Grand is something I do because I can do this for a living. I can spend 8 hours a day doing this. So that means that the grand. But my method can be used. But instead of having grand, and you can, meaning that's why I do this, because you can take my version of City of Critwall, and soon you will have the Photoshop, so you can edit things out and say, my Critwall is different than this. So you should take my PSD file and you can go in and delete the streets, or you can add some extras and tweak things. So take material from others and then tweak it to your liking, because that's what I did. I took the writing from all the previous GREYHAWK creators, but so make it into the ambition you have time for, so to speak. Meaning I do this for a living and I give away tons of stuff and people pay me to do it. So that means that I can prep at a level that is probably not feasible for most. But
you have a grand level of detail, but when you run a game, it's not grand scale as in you're not going to be working for the king and doing some diplomatic mission that's going to save the
it depends on what the level, meaning if you have a low level campaign, it's all about the thugs around the corner and the rat catcher and so on and so forth. And the king and all that happens in a castle, and all you can do is sit on the sidelines and look at all the fancy stuff. But you might see the occasional dragon fly past and you see that, the temple has a new priest, so now we have to pay more taxes, so we can go there and look and ooh and ah at all this stuff. And you might be guests at the tiniest little table in the corner of the room, and then you move up and your characters are 10th level, and all of a sudden the kings and the high priest, they are looking for new talent. They need new meat for the grinder. They need new talent to make new knights. The previous owner of that keep died. We need a new knight that can take over that and fight for us. So then they are looking, scouting. That's where my player characters are now in my campaign. They are like 7, 8 level player. So they are becoming pawns or higher than pawns. They're now becoming mid-level rooks and so on in the game, chess game of power. So they're high and powerful. Even the king starts saying, okay, what kind of new fresh blood are you bringing in? Meaning he looks to his lords and provincial, so on. Meaning, what new knights? Do you have any talented knights or someone can go out and do a daring mission behind Iusian lines and so on and so forth? So
they're looking for pockets of expertise that can be executed.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And then when you move up to 15, 16 level, then you become the lord of the castle, or you become the top advisor working directly for the king or something like that. So,
or you get executed because you're suspected.
Exactly. Or you get all the Iusians coming after you because you're the next one in line to do some serious stuff. So you get enemies as well as friends. So, yeah.
So Yeah, your style is grandiose detail, but in sandbox style. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's
And
just cool.
with sandbox, I mean that it's not scripted. I don't say that
Right.
the characters need to go the next stop and we do this and then the next stop. So
You don't run
what I
modules.
exactly. I don't run modules and I
Yeah.
simply develop an area. I develop the geography, I develop the who lives there, what they're
Yeah.
doing, and all the details. Not everything, but a lot of stuff enough so I have enough kind of bullet points so I can fill in the blanks during the
Mhm.
session. And then I let the characters loose and say the players, you can go in any direction. And then I give them little hints and things happen and so on. And the players like, oh, that looks interesting. Let's run over there and see what's happened. And it's
Yeah.
like, nah, that's too scary. Let's stay here and so on. And then that is an interaction between me and the players. So they take the characters to explore. Sometimes I'm pushing and scaring the characters in one direction. The next time the characters are like, this is so cool. We need to go there. And they are the ones. So it's a tug of war among sometimes I'm guiding the play, sometimes the players are like, no, we need to go this way and do this, so to speak.
So you've heard Tim's style and Anna's for the most part,
Yeah.
right? For me, um, how do I say this? I am the first. Pro, what's called West Marches is my style because
Mm-hmm.
it works. Because there's nothing more frustrating to me than having a game because I live stream it now too. That has to get canceled because two people don't show up for the week, right? That drives me insane. With our multiple adventuring groups, multiple locations, and I have my players vested in with ideas, with classes, with deities they want to have specialty priests made up with new what locations they want to play in. I listen to them a lot, and it's how the game gets developed. But as an example, last week I had two of my regular players out. Coco and Curtis came in and played, but we had a mixed group of Night of Yule character adventures. Because I have so many different groups and so many different characters, I'm able to do that. But that doesn't mean that if you say you have a new group, as an example, say you have 5 players or 6 players, and two of them can't make it. One's kid's sick, and the other one has to work late that night.
Mm-hmm.
Have NPCs, have backup characters for them, have a second character for them ready. If you don't think you can do it with 3 characters, have characters that go in and out. If you notice in the Nuclear Meat Group, I have 2 characters right now. I have Ashrin, the priestess of Solanor, and I also have Chudley, the gnome jester, coming in and out of that group on Saturday mornings when we play them. And we're playing them this Saturday, by the way. So we'll talk about that soon. Um, for Ed's group, I don't need to have NPCs for the most part running in and out of them because they're usually very rarely do we have cancels in those games. But for example, on a Saturday morning, it's tough, and so I have flexibility. So what I'm saying is, as a DM, do everything you can to make sure that your game runs every week, whether you're streaming it or not, because that'll get your players vested in it. If
Mm-hmm.
people can't make it due to real life situations, become adaptable. Now, maybe that's not what you want to do, but I would say play your game, even if you have a couple of people out. Don't
Mm-hmm.
cancel because two people can't make it. If
Yeah.
4 of them can, it's a different story, right?
Well, you could also
Yeah.
pull something out of your hip pocket and play a different game if it's really you really have to have them because they're key to the story. You could probably you probably have a couple one-offs you could just whip out of your
Yeah,
pocket.
we'll have a new group next spring. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Tim. You're right. Yeah, deadly. Or
Yeah.
you may have some backup players.
Mm-hmm.
You may have someone who
you
can.
have to shuffle
You may
your
have
terrain.
someone who can remote in, and they're
Yeah.
not going to be there in person, but you can put them in on their FaceTime or Zoom or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
Skype. So. Yep.
And that touches in how many players are a good number of players. And that's an interesting, and it depends on the situation. Meaning, do you play online or do you play around the table? If you play around the table, my experience, you can have 1 or 2 players more because it's much easier to communicate around the table. If you communicate through Zoom or Discord or something, it's much more difficult to talk over each other. Around the game table, you can listen to one and you can make like a sign language to another player, and players can whisper to each other and coordinate around the.
Just the ease of pointing.
Yes,
on the
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. My experience is that more than 5 players is difficult when you run an online game. Probably 3, 4, maybe 5 players is good. But a game table, if you have too few, it's not fun. So I would say 4 to 6 players is probably more kind of good to have around the game table.
Yeah. I had 7 last night.
I get the Matrix running. We'll just plug in and be in a virtual room with a virtual map in front of us.
7's a good number. Yeah. So 7 is like I really don't want to go beyond 7 because I don't want the combat rounds to slow down a lot. And that's why we went late last night, because we had 7 people instead of 5 or whatever. But still, 7 virtually, that makes sense, Dale. So we're gonna have 8 when Andrew Scott Perry plays for us and DMs for us in December.
And it also did a little bit of mini run 3rd edition. Then you have to cut down significantly because for 3rd and 4th, and that's one of my caveats with Hawktails, is that I try to make the combat run smoother. It's hard, but I try to. But and another thing that comes with online play that I personally have a difficulty is that a lot of players don't want to have a webcam. That you just hear them and you don't never see them. And I know it's okay, but it's boring. As a DM, I feel like I'm sitting talking to nobody, so to speak. I have a hard time with that. I want that face-to-face conversation.
Able to make faces.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, 99% of the time on my live streams, I require it. Right. Unless there's a special circumstance, like Jason Zavoda or someone, I'm not talking about the talk shows. Talk shows are, we know Les doesn't show himself, Gary. It's okay.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
We're talking about the gameplay itself.
Exactly. When you run games online, for me, it's much more fun if I can have that interaction with players, not just listen and have the voice. I want to see them, and I want to gesture and see them like no and point at me and all that stuff. Yeah.
Or have the right teeth.
Exactly. Yes. You can see stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
So
but I have sometimes. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay, Anna. Continue. That's all right.
I was just going to say, but it's also up because some players have technical difficulties, disabilities, and limitations in their budget, and don't have webcams, fancy computers, and headsets, and good internet connections. It's hard to get all these things set up. So I can understand, but it's still something to strive for in an online game.
Yeah. If you want to see the look on their faces when something you do, I love that. I love that. I was taunting them like hell last night. If you were watching with Mistress Rebecca, I was taunting them.
2 freeze framed frames of expressions. One is Eric Mona when he's like, when I was playing the bad guy for Jay, and he was doing that flesh shiver spell at his look, and I have one of Jay's face.
Yeah.
When I did something, and he was like,
yeah.
Because I literally get scared when Tim's DMing for me.
Yeah. It's like Eric Mona when in the first game when he played, he used the last spell to become gaseous and take the little ring and disappear. That was so good. Exactly. That was so damn good. It was like, and that was something. If we hadn't had caught that on camera, it would have been much less interesting, so to speak.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I go.
Yeah.
And then him doing the wedding was awesome, so Dungeon Masters sometimes need a player to be the dungeon monster. Play together, guys, so much fun. Yeah, I've done it a couple times, Geek. Let me tell you something though. I like to have when I did that 24-hour stream, I was without Tim being there in person, I was dead in the water. Right, dude. That was it's good to have friends.
Yeah, but Geek Dice, that is a great thing, but it requires responsible and experienced players.
Yeah,
I would not try to pull any of that to beginning players.
Absolutely, but it's
no,
cool.
you need experienced players who play this for fun, not because they want to optimize their characters or
you're correct on that.
Yeah, so it can be fantastic, and experienced players who've been around the bend more than a few times, they love stuff like this. But if you have a new group, that can be scary. Yeah,
I find min-max characters boring.
Yeah,
I like to make characters that aren't perfect or messed up or like Jimmy Yingling always.
What a dumb character.
Always picks a bad idea.
He is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad idea. I think
Yeah.
I like it. Well, he's got low wisdom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, sorry.
No, go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say min-maxing is one of these contentious, really discussed. And in my opinion, this is a continuum, and there's no right or wrong, but there are different tastes of the game. And meaning
Sure.
for some people, D&D is first and foremost a game. They want to roll dice, they want to add math, they want to have the coolest weapon, the most pluses, and get the coolest treasures and win combat in as few rounds as possible, and have a character that can face up to the most awesome monsters and stuff. It's for them is first and foremost a game. The role playing, the soft fluffy sides, that's cool flavor, but the core for them, it's the game, it's the math, it's the tangible part, so to speak. And then you have players that are completely opposite on the spectrum. For them, it's poetry improv with a little bit of rules that necessarily have to be there, so to speak. But the important part is to have fun, tell stories, and immerse ourselves in the setting and the lore and our characters and stuff. And if I have a plus so and so, I don't care, so to speak. That and most players are somewhere in between. But the problem is that some players are differently more or fundamentally much more on one side of the spectrum than the other. And that's when it becomes a little bit of problematic.
I like to, when I do tactics, I like to do it based on the character. So my more militant, organized characters are going to try to do tactically sound things that are intelligent. My more chaotic, less so, are going to be more spontaneous and crazy. And I also will help people who have characters that would be more tactically sound, but the character is more tactically sound than the player. And I will make suggestions saying, well, you're aware of these sort of things you could do. And I give them some like multiple choice to broaden their thoughts on how they could do it.
I help the special groups all the time. I help Ed.
Oh yeah,
a lot. I mean, Ed, I'm like, Ed, you have this, or Last night they did great, and I didn't need to make many suggestions because I.
No, but you give me suggestions because I'm not an expert in your rule system,
right? Exactly,
and it's great, and that's my and also. Yeah, and some players, meaning some players are firmly stuck on one end or the other of the spectrum, but there are some players who can run combat like Excel spreadsheet model, and then all of a sudden be super fluffy when it comes to haggling over something or discussing with a demon or whatever it is, so to speak. So some players are very flexible, but some players are not because they thoroughly enjoy one aspect and not the other. And that is important as a DM and as a player to both find some sort of compromise, meaning how far in either direction do you want to go? How anal do you want to be about the number crunching, and how fluffy or how much do you want to ignore it in other situations? And
well, that's a good point, Anna, because I'll tell you this, the third game during the 24-hour stream, I couldn't see straight. And I was just guessing on the
exactly
at that point because I was like,
I'm trying to do simple.
I couldn't do simple math at that point.
And for a lot of players, that's probably fine because they just want the game to move on and have fun. For other players, that ruins the fun because they are spent so much and they're like, are you changing the rules on me? Meaning I've done all this and that sword did so much damage before and whatever. Yeah.
But all right, so you did say one thing I'll take a slight exception with. Nira's had these 2+1 swords, short swords forever. You got a +3 short sword last night that does triple damage minimum on a crit. I think you were happy about that. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, okay.
So meaning and for me, I can tell my experience is that I was firmly on the hardcore play by the rules kind of plus. If you asked me 30 years ago, I was firmly in that camp. Then I'm slowly moved on. So now I feel I'm 60% fluff and 40% crunch, so to speak. So I moved over a little bit over on the fluffy side now, so to speak. That's where I think I will be.
It's kind of like in a movie, fights are to progress the story. In D&D, it may be that, but it also might be the story.
True.
And so it has different weights, and certain fights you can kind of be laissez-faire about with the rules, and then some fights you want to be real strict on because it's a key essential element. So
Yep. And to me, there's nothing right and wrong, but I think all players and DM needs to be aware of this distinction, so to speak, and this kind of scale that things can go all over the place. But it's an aspect of the gameplay that I think you should be aware of, because if you're aware of it and can cater to different needs for different players, and as players you can understand that other players and DMs might enjoy other aspects of the game, you might still be able to play together and have an awesome game. But if you're firmly in one camp and can't even understand why anyone else would to do anything else, and I've encountered those players and DMs too, that can ruin the fun for a lot of others in both ways.
I had something to say and it just slipped my mind
Oh,
completely. Which
sorry.
is no, it's okay. It's not your fault. All right, okay. So Rob brings up a good point. When he did his virtual GreyHawk game with 6 hours, he felt like he could keep on rolling, right?
Yeah.
I'll say this: DMing is a rush, an adrenaline rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the point where when I get done, like when I got done the game last night, because I had so much fun doing it, and it was a challenge for both. It was a challenge for the players. It was a challenge for me to make it challenging, right? And to keep the story and have storylines and have interconnectivity. So it just wasn't a hack and slash. It was like there's a reason, right? So when I get done, I can't go to sleep.
Same here.
I can't, it is a real rush. I cannot go to sleep afterwards. So I was up last night. Fortunately, the Flyers game was on because they were in Calgary last night. So I was up to like 1:30 in the morning last night.
Well,
I
do you
couldn't
ever
sleep.
have trouble falling asleep anyway?
Not like that. No, after I DM, like Thursday nights are rough for me getting to bed because I get that adrenaline. I get the adrenaline rush from DMing, man. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
do.
How about you, Anna? Do you ever have trouble falling asleep, or?
Oh yeah, I usually 1 or 2 nights before I usually take the one of my inspirations. I have two tricks
If I
that
could.
usually works really well for me to get in the mood of, because I want to have the mood like I want to live in the world, so to speak. I want to see the world
Yep.
and the NPC, what's going on when when the session starts, so I can be in the mood of doing it. And what I either go hiking by myself out somewhere, or I lay down in Benny. I put on the best music possible, and I just lay there and dream my
Decompress.
way into it. And I
Yeah.
kind of, okay, what's the landscape? I know what the landscape
Right.
looks like, but who lives there, and what's happening, and the Ayusian priests are casting these spells, and they're causing this to happen, and so on. And then the characters come in, and I kind of just dream through it, and all of a sudden I'd fall asleep. But sometimes I can be there, and I was like, oh, and this is cool. And then I take my phone and I type down one sentence, and then I lay it aside, and then I think about it. And same thing when I'm out, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I need that ingredients. And then after 3 hours of hiking or 1 hour of listening to music in my bed, then or sitting on the patio or something, then I have 20 bullet points. One can be like, oh, I used to have cast the wrath of pain that creates a special form of undead that wanders back to the priests. So okay, then I have these undead are wandering back to the priest. That's like one line. And then I have, okay, the skull crows are out. What are they doing? What are they looking for? So the skull crows are looking for blah blah blah. And then I put these things down. So I have like, usually when I start a session, I have 20 to 30 of these bullet points.
Pretty much, geek.
And these are just loose ideas. This is happening, that is happening, that is happening. And then I sprinkle in this as to build a believable world around the characters all the time, so to speak. And then the players interact with it, and that means that all of a sudden that bullet point no longer works because the players have done this. Then I can just ignore that one, and then another one becomes even more feasible, meaning the player character starts combat. It was like, oh, the skull crows now have something happen, so they will come and investigate, and then the players react to that, etc. So yeah.
So I guess the best. I'm looking for. We'll take questions, of course, if you want to. If anyone has any questions, the best compliment you can get as a DM is your players come back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So mine have come back for 40 years.
And it seems like Anna didn't want to, but at least now she's back.
Yes. Yeah.
What, in your game? Well, she didn't want to because you're.
Oh yes. I definitely wanted to.
I've seen crazy stuff in Tim's game.
She did get hurt.
Oh, but I like
playing with some Blue Moon.
Yeah, but I'm also playing. I like crazy stuff, but in the beginning I was like, this is it, and then it was, and that is part of, but it's also part of me as a player. I want to be abhorred by things sometimes because that makes it more real. It's like you go to a horror movie, you want to
Right.
be scared a bit because
It was
that can, yeah.
it made me feel I had bad feelings because I know what I would feel like when you're totally helpless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the character was helpless, and they all were practically except for one, and under ruthless, and the fear
Mm-hmm.
factor was kind of like
Yeah.
that would be so horrible, you
Yeah,
know.
and also Tim, you set yourself up because you set up a session and a sandbox that was so tough for the characters, which means that becomes even more delicate and imprison the characters and taking away their agency, so to speak. That is some of the toughest things you can do because then all of a sudden a lot of the responsibility of you as a DM to guide the game in the right direction. If the players are superheroes and can do anything, then yeah.
Carlos did he made all the right choices and
Yes. Oh
demeanor and
yeah. Mm-hmm.
behavior
Yep.
so intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
He played his character
Yep.
brilliantly,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
And that
it
was
wasn't time to try to flex.
exactly, but that was also so
He
cool
is.
to see the interaction between Carlos as a player and Tim as a DM. That was brilliant. It was so cool to watch that and to listen in on that. And the cool thing, even if my character was on the sideline, it was still so awesome because it was like my character's destiny was in the hands of these two, one character in the game and the other one the rest of the game, that the DM embodies the rest of the world, so to speak. And to see that unfold and then slowly get into it, that's like sitting and watching a thriller movie and seeing the story kind of unfold and then knowing that you will be part of the game later on and you can move in. So don't worry, and especially if you have experienced players.
Yep.
If you have new players, you make sure that all the players get turns all the time, so to speak, so you don't leave them around. But Tim, in this case, Tim, you had experience play. We all played for
He
30,
had to
40 or
set it
20
back
years.
up. He had to set it
Exactly.
back
So
up.
so
Yeah.
then you can take way more liberty, meaning Tim took the first half hour and just played with Carlos. And that was perfectly fine because that actually gave me more time to sit and like, oh, this is not good. And so that
Everything happening was relevant to everyone else.
exactly. That's the other beauty of the thing. Both what Carlos did and what Tim did was affecting the whole party. We didn't get to roll much dice or anything, but for experienced players, this is cool because you see a great DM and a great player interact live in front of you, so to speak. But for the beginning players, no, don't imprison the characters and make sure that all the players get a turn all the time. But for experienced players, mistreat the characters really a lot, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Sparky, you did a great job. You did a great job being lightly rebellious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they play the moral role. That was that was awesome. That was so good. That was
yeah.
that was so fun. Yeah, so
So
much fun.
oh my God, what my brain just like I had this great. Where can we buy those shirts you have? Uh, I usually set up during Virtual GrowCon a merch store, but if you tell me what shirt you want, I'll tell you. If I have a size, I will let you know. Oh my gosh, my good friend Todd Stashwick just texted me.
There you go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He wants one of those shirts.
yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying, let's chat soon.
And I think Sam, I think there is another interesting point that to bring up, and that difference. And I'm going to use Carlos and myself and Tim as examples of Carlos. I think is a master DM in closed spaces, meaning a lot of the games I played with Carlos, we've been in 4 rooms. And it's been an awesome session that it spanned over 4 rooms. And I move 10 feet and we do all this and we interact with cool stuff and kill things and almost get killed or whatever.
Right.
And then we have Tim that move over, well, some square miles, this is a location. And my games, the combat starts when the opposition is 4 miles out, and you start doing it. So you can, and that's that is both the rule system and also whether you use a game table, because the game table, even Jay's game table, is not half a mile long, so to speak, in scale. So that is, and VTTs might, that depends on the, meaning theater, the mind, you have no problem. You can use any scale you want, so to speak. So depending on your house, but that is something that you as a DM, you need to figure out, where do you want the action to start, so to speak? When is it just general description, and when do you move into, now we're going to battle each other? So
Jay, we're going to have to go down to 15 millimeter.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Bill. Yeah, Bill would go insane. So go absolutely insane if that were. We got to redo all the.
But one of my advice is this: when you have if you run stories, meaning you run combat, we move from this location and then you move to the next scene and so on and so forth, then no problem. You can limit it. You're in the inn, something happens, and so on and so forth. If you run a really pure sandbox like I do, then you should make sure that things start early. You lure them in. There's like orcs sitting up on the ridge 2 miles over there. What do you do? And so you lure them in and doing. So it depends on your play style. If your play style is scene based, story based, module based, skip all the grandiose. You're running through a forest fighting. You take the scene and play it out and skip the rest of the world, because that moves you to the important action much faster.
As a young kid, I remember playing with my family, relatives, friends. It'd be like, your journey is swift and uneventful, and you arrive at the mouth of this cave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the adventure starts.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and that's perfectly fine, depending on your play style and your meaning, what you run modules and stuff. You read the little box text on the side, and you're done with it, so to speak, and you're there.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh my gosh, I got so much going on in my head.
And we interrupt you.
No. Yeah. It's okay. So there is. I'll try and summarize it. There's no right or wrong way to play your GREYHAWK setting, but take your GREYHAWK setting and then set up your ideas for how you want to DM, what kind of style and edition, and what kind, VTT, Theater Mind, or in-person miniatures, whatever you're doing, and then decide what you want to get out of it in the end. And that is, think of a long-term plot. Oh, you know what? All right, I'm starting in Hamlet, but I want them to become servants to the king of Fiorendi, or I want them to become knights, or I want them to become rich. And then decide, well, is this going to be multi-generational, or is this going to be something where I can bring another group in, and we can go away from that group when they turn 7th or 8th. Just have an idea for a plot arc where you want it to go. I know it's tough. Michael asked a question, and that was it. I got to answer it. I know it's tough to think of in that term, but it'll really help you. It'll help you decide, well, all right, I'm just going to run this adventure path, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Okay, that's cool. It's perfectly fine. Michael asked me, am I a home brewer or am I a module runner? So if I looked back in 1,079 adventures, the longer I played, the less modules I've run. All right, so I'd say overall, over the 44 years, I'm going to say it is a 4-to-1, so 80-20 homebrew to modules. Early on, it was more like 50-50, right, Tim? Roughly about that, because
I think so.
Yeah, well, back then
a lot of the dungeon.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of dungeons, a lot of adventure cards, and GREYHAWK box set is still, a lot of Necromancer game adventures, stuff like that. So, a lot of stuff. Maybe a Dyson game, a Dyson one I saw and did. Remember the 3rd edition things that Skip put out? I used almost all of them. The ones he did, the 1-page adventures that you could download for free off the website during the 3rd edition era. I just back converted them to 1st edition. There was a lot of that, but I'd say homebrew, it's about 4-to-1, so 80-20. Yeah. So there you go. That was the answer to that question. So thanks, Derek. Good to see you.
I was thinking, this is early when we were talking about theater of mind versus, and all the gradations between that and being mechanical. You can add a nice, no matter how untheater of mind you are, you can always overlay theater of mind stuff by including what smells are being smelled
Yeah.
and what little sounds are being what they're hearing, and that will automatically, make it easier to imagine what's going on with the people. It'll kind of bring them in
Yep.
a little bit more imaginatively as to the
Yep.
environment they're in, and without a lot of heavy investment. It doesn't.
Yep.
You don't have to be the greatest poet to be able to describe some of the things they're smelling and hearing.
And my advice, that's great advice. And my add-on advice to that is try to explain the world from the character's perspective. Don't try to tell the players what you know from a game perspective. Try and tell, meaning this is different. If the player plays a first level villager who aspires to be a city guard and has no idea what's come, then you can say all these big brutes, they are outside the city walls and they're yelling and screaming and it's all whatever. And then if the player then plays, they're sitting at the inn. He's playing a 15-level ranger who's been around the world 8 times and fought 6 campaigns. You can tell him that, well, it sounds like there's a couple of half-orcs that are drunk and forgot something. They're yelling and screaming and hootering outside the city walls. Nothing to worry about, so to speak. So you can tell the stuff from the character's perspective. If the character are really smart and seasoned, they should know stuff, so to speak, whether the player knows it or not. So you get the sense of the player get the sense that, oh, my character is experienced or a newbie, meaning you might have a player who's been around and seen everything, but try to play a dumb newbie villager who knows nothing, so to speak. And so that is my other advice. Explain the world through the character's eyes to the player.
So, any other questions here? I know we're coming up to the 2 hours. I knew the 2 hours would fly by tonight.
Oh yeah, this is awesome fun to talk
Yeah,
about
it was
stuff like
it's
this.
been a great discussion. And we have Tim for the full 2 hours too.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So, limited
Yeah,
perception.
it's the holiday tomorrow. I'm not working.
Oh yeah, my son's off, but I'm working. So
Yeah.
I forgot it's Columbus Day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be a good week. So where do you see the content coming up this week? It's gonna be amazing. So all right, final thoughts on this topic, Tim. What's your final thoughts on this? And thanks for really participating in this discussion.
Along the line of Anna's 20 bullet points, I actually, when I'm preparing for a game, I spend the weeks beforehand or the time in between daydreaming. When I have every so often when I'm driving, I'm daydreaming, and parts of the scenario are like I'm running through my head about dialogue and things like that. And that's one of the things I do.
Yep.
And then that fuels when I write stuff down.
I do it in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
I do it a lot in the shower. I'm just thinking, oh man, that's a great idea.
And take notes because you might forget the ideas.
Good idea, Anna. Yes.
Yeah, but I have my phone and Evernote, and I just type it down, and that way I can remember. I don't have to remember it. That was a cool idea. I write it down, and then I can make a summary of it afterwards, so to speak, or have a physical notebook or something.
I've done that too. I especially do that for names.
Exactly, names and places, and you can. That's why I have a phone with the notes. I can sketch on it as well, so you can sketch things, type things down, because that way, when you get an idea, you can write it down and forget about it. Because then I go through it when I get home or when I have time over and want to do some serious prepping, so to speak.
Holiday moose.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and that's another thing. We should have a show about how to organize your campaign notes and your lore for your game, so to speak. That's another one we should do a whole show about in the future. Yeah.
There's a lot of shows. So as you can see, this is the kickoff for preparing and having content for all those people coming when that Dungeon Master's Guide hits. And it's going to be a lot. And like at Virtual GREYHAWK Con, I'm feeling good about it. I know some of us had an argument with with a couple of the guests about whether it was going to be bright or dark, but I have a very positive thought about it. So they're going to have somewhere to go, and we just want to keep it rolling. So yeah. All right. So for me on this, you're gonna make mistakes. I always make mistakes. I hit wrong buttons all the time as an example, but you're gonna, as a DM, and that's okay. You make a mistake, there's always a way around it. Say you're playtesting a spell and you kill someone by accident. Wow. The priest found in the treasure a rod of resurrection with 2 charges left, and it can resurrect that person, and they take no ill effects from it. There's simple ways of solving those problems. So play test. That's what I always say. Keep on testing your game and keep on making little tweaks and changes.
Yeah. And also then run dummy games. Meaning Hawktails, I run dummy sessions that is not real, just mock skirmishes, because especially the combat rules and spells, you need to test them out, so to speak. So run them, but then tell the players, oh, this is now we do a mock-up test here, so to speak. So I've done that.
After Page, you won't call our session a dummy session.
No. Those were that's why I have to run them separately.
How we play.
Yep.
That's a good one there, Dale. So this is what I'll do. I think we'll handle that one over the holidays in preparation for Page. Preparing a game for a limited time for conventions.
Good one.
I know we did one years back. Carlos and I did one of that, but I think we could do it again. We should really do it because I have a whole system. And I will share it because at that point we do that at the end of the year, going into early 2025 for Paige and have Gary Con. Well, let's hope.
Doing what?
Preparing for a one shot or a con, and a DMing. Yeah, I think it's a great one.
Yeah, you better tell me that before I go.
I'll tell you. You've had a lot of practice. If you remember how long you went on streams during cons, early cons and fundraisers, and you're getting.
Yeah.
You figured it out, man. It's just a matter of knowing how many combats, what you can and can't do, So you got it.
And I have my hidden dice of critical hits to speed things up.
Yep. Let's do some shout outs. Tim, what's going on?
Same old.
Okay. Same old.
Preparing for the next city state adventure, preparing for the
good
stage.
Okay.
Preparing for the next Dark Hand, preparing the next Underdogs, preparing for the next Reverse Dungeon.
I know, that's good. Keeps you busy.
I know. I got to get back to the Reverse Dungeon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think they would like it. Yes. I think they would like it a lot. So,
yes.
It'll be fine, as everyone says there. But I was happy about your strategy going after all the evil characters in the joust. That was really good.
Oh, yeah, I got an article to write too.
Yeah, for Visions or Grimoire?
For Martin's notebook for Frog God.
Oh, for Frog God. There you go.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool to hear. So, we appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the full 2 hours.
Yeah, it was great.
Anna, what do you got going on?
Prepping for a game hall. I'm leaving Tuesday morning at in the wee hours of 2 a.m. from home. So I'm have one last 24 hours of prepping. So I'm prepping the seminar. They will be largely the same as I had the virtual GREYHAWK Con seminar. So no biggie, no big change there, so to speak. So and then I will run the game a 6-hour session. So that will be a continuation of the game I ran at virtual GREYHAWK Con. So 6 hours. Yeah, I'm not as efficient as you are. So I want to have 1 hour of getting things up and running.
Flexibility because you're going to have all new players.
Exactly. I players I don't know, and so I want 1 hour to set things up, and then half hour of break in the middle, and then so I get 4 hours of effective gameplay. That's what I expect to get out of a 6-hour session, and then some. So I will pack my tiles and dry erase markers and a bunch of stuff like that too. And I got some maps printed. So we hopefully have a huge 60-inch canvas with the whole map on, so we can put tokens and stuff on it and move around the whole area. So that, and I've done character sheets for Hawktails, the first character sheets. They look really good for just being alpha sheets. So I'm going to put all the characters on the proper character sheets. And so that will come. I will publish that as soon as there's probably a couple of things I need to weed it out. I was hoping that I'd get a chance to do it before, but they will come after that when I get back home. They will come a new rule sample with character sheets and some more monsters, because I've studied up a few more monsters, and there will be more zombie goats. There are more zombie goats than the original ones now. Yeah.
And when you're running the Shieldlands Patrol,
Yep.
will each new adventure group start with fresh character? Will they be freshened up?
It depends.
Are they maimed along the way?
Oh yeah, they can be maimed along the way, and if they die, we have to come up with new ones. So far none have died so far, but that might happen. But they are 7 or 8 levels now. So when we get to page, they will probably be 9th level or 8, at least 8. They will probably be 8 or 9. So 1 level higher by then, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. So we'll see if they will level up by what. Depends on how much they do and if there's some game downtime in between. I might run a session or two online in between to move things forward a bit too. So run some online games as well. So it's
Awesome.
starting to get there. Yep.
So Blue, last night, it was like, I understand. Steve Winter said, just someone kicked the damn door open. Let's get moving. Last night, I'm like, it's only a sinkhole, everyone. That's it. The first hole. I'm like, it's just a hole. It's just, I put it there because it looks cool. And they're like, the hole. Hey, the one group sat there for a half hour because there was a ram on the hills. I had a ram miniature, and I put it out there, and it completely stopped them in their tracks for a half hour, arguing about this damn ram. So it happens sometimes.
Sometimes the players try to play the DM instead of just play the game.
Right. Yeah. So it happens. It's all good. All right. We are on tomorrow night at 8:00. I am on with, and I'm gonna have Pip and Mark from Marquee Gaming, who we're gonna raid into now, and they're gonna make up from scratch. They've never played old school, and they're gonna make up 2 characters for Nuclear Meat for this Saturday coming up. All right, so, and there'll be 6 level characters roughly, because that's what the level of the group is, 6th, 7th. So look forward to that. We will also have 3 of the players there, Korg and Coco and Sir Timothy, will all show up and just talk about their characters, maybe give them some encouragement, and that'll be tomorrow night, and that will be at 8 p.m., 8 to 9. If it runs a little late, it runs a little late, but 8 to 9 tomorrow night Eastern time. All right, so that is Monday. So special extra Monday stream. Wednesday night, Anna's at Game Hole. So here is our topic.
Oh,
coolest historical GREYHAWK campaigns. And so I'm going to have Gary Julian and Sam on to talk about this. And also, let me make sure I know I have it here. Hold on 1 second here. They also have a public, here it is. Here's our newest little mini publication that Gary and Sam are putting together, historical campaigns of the world of GREYHAWK. So we'll see this tomorrow. We'll see this Wednesday night.
When can we get our hands on this awesome
after Wednesday night show, Anna, which you're not going to be at.
No, damn, but I can grab the stuff and read it.
What is a historical campaign? I'll give you an example of that, Sadness.
I was going to ask.
The Hateful Wars, which I did a 24-hour stream on, is a historical campaign session. The fighting at Fleef with Vecna is a historical one. The Reign of Colorless Fire.
Yeah.
Would you say the giant GDQ?
Maybe they're going to give me 10 of them. Oh yeah.
I can take Vera Lost, the old Flan outpost in Rift Canyon. I can think of that back in the day.
Yes, there's going to be an outline for everyone, or a PDF for this. Okay. So this is going to be a dozen. You're going to have a dozen examples of great campaign settings that you can do that are historical in nature, in time. So if you want to do a campaign, if you want to do a game back in time, here you go. It'll be a reference book. I did the Hateful Wars. You guys can, that was my favorite. So you guys can do that. And I'm going to do some other ones in the future. I may go back to the Battle of Emerald Meadows myself. I think I'm going to do. I imagine it's one of the 12 too. So we'll see. All right. Sound good? That will be tomorrow, Wednesday night. I don't have the name for the game Thursday night, but it's going to be. I have 2 guys out again. Alan's still away and Bill once again has family obligations with his son with hockey, and so it's going to be right now. It's going to be Walt, Tom, and Coco playing on Thursday so far. Okay, well, I'm not sure what the game is yet. I'm going to wait till tomorrow night to finalize what I'm going to do for them Saturday, because I want to see where their 2 characters, Pip and Marks, go. What their background idea is before I even write up this. I have something in my head for a scenario, but that'll be Saturday from 10 to 2. But I'll have banners out for all that. But Gabbin next week, special guest. Finally, Timothy Brannon is on next Sunday. I don't think are you back yet? Huh? You back?
I'm not. No, I'm not back.
Okay.
So I will probably be at
Tim,
Josh's place. Or
you're available.
We'll see.
He did that first edition. He's a witch guy. The witches. All right, so we'll try and get if you can come on at even an hour or two. Let me know for the interview, because that's his specialty, is witch publications. But he's done a lot of other things. He has a blog. He's done a lot of other publications. We're going to talk about his contributions, but we're really going to dig into witches on this for the holiday season. So, and that will be normal time next Sunday night. So we'll have 5 streams this week: Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday next week. 5. Yes, finally witches. Yeah. So there you go. Let's do the giveaway. It's your choice of 2. Everyone, the winner, because of the high hype train here. Last call, exclamation point drawing, and then we're going to raid the Marquee Gaming tonight because of them starting to participate in my campaign.
If I survive the 19th, I could possibly be there.
What's the 19th? Paintball. You play
paintball.
Well, I know you and playing with Walt. That's really cool.
And Mark, I'm bringing Mark.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. All right, ready? We're going to close it out. See who wins. And we're rating Marquee Gaming. More than him last time. I already talked to Darling. It's not a big deal this time. So we're going to give them a little love here, because we'll see them tomorrow night here. Closing it out. Here's the winner is the winner, Razkill. Get with me, and we'll pick 2 that we'll pick 2 for you. All righty. Grats. 2 that you don't have. And just note, we'll get a lot more Frog game giveaways going, as we're going to bring them on as a sponsor. So we'll adding them to the mix. So there you go. All right, let's go in with over 100 into this raid. So Tim, Anna, thanks. What a great show.
Thank you.
See you all tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. All right. For Fun Session 0, and showing how the cooking is done to make up a character. I'm getting the wrong button here. I know it. See ya. I did hit a wrong button. Oh my gosh.
J.
Yep.
Boop boop.
Alrighty. Duh on me. Setting the rate up. Duh.
Hey, it seems your destiny.
My destiny is that wrong button at least once a stream, which is okay.
Yep.
Community.
And the tuna fish sandwich and the turtle wing.
Yes.
Set. Yep.
Oh my god, I forgot what I was doing here. Stream manager. I had to find my way here. Stream manager, raid channel. There we go. Oh my god, I couldn't remember. 1 second. All right. Boom! Over 100. Thank you so very much. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. 105.
Oh, that's fantastic numbers. Yep.
Yeah.